Hello, hello. What's up, everybody? Happy wacky Wednesday. Hope you're all doing well. What are we watching here at first, Adam?
We're well, first we're gonna set up the context, right?
What is the context?
Well, I had done a tweet that had not intended to be so controversial, right?
Is that the
Uh,
story of your life?
yeah, I mean, I think the interesting thing about this election is that it is kind of a difficult situation. Like normally you're used to making, the least bad option when you vote. Like,
Hmm.
well, I guess this is really a product of being an independent, right? Because there are people obviously on the left and the right who are gun ho for whoever the Democrats put up or whoever the Republicans put up, right? They're going to show up and vote. They're not.
Hmm.
They're invested in their team winning. And then there are independents who are like, which of these candidates is going to be best for the country? They're going to examine policy and character and like everything in a big soup and kind of decide which is the best option. Most of the time in that situation, you're trying to choose the least bad option, right? Do you agree with that assessment?
I mean, sure, I'll agree.
Okay. Well, no. In truth, I mean you've voted before, right? You're not voting now, but
I mean, yeah, well, when I voted, for Obama, I didn't feel like I was voting for the least bad option. I was, happy to vote for Obama.
yeah, yeah. Well,
So,
look, Obama's a weird situation because when Obama ran, I was more of a partisan anyway. So, and
hmm.
Obama just seemed like a great candidate. So, I mean, I have been in partisan situations where I'm not really super down with the candidate. And there are people in this election, obviously, who are partisans that are not down with Kamala Harris. But,
Right.
but anyway, this election presents a unique challenge because both sides are claiming their candidates are have disqualifying characteristics, right? For
Hmm.
various reasons. So this is kind of the election where people are basically saying, your candidate is unqualified to be president of the United States, and if you vote for that candidate, you're a sick, evil person and deserve to die, right? Sad and alone. Like that's basically the argument a lot of people are making. So that's like a frustrating situation to be in for independence. It's a frustrating situation to be in as a country because like how do you come back after that election, right? It's we're we're in a situation here where things are just deteriorating quickly, right?
Yeah, but I think you most people don't view it through that same perception because most people, I think, in this election are either A, Donald Trump is the savior that's going to save America from the evil deep state and the left, or they view it as Donald Trump is the great Satan and Kamala Harris, even if they don't really like her, they're going to convince themselves in their minds that they like her, that Kamala Harris is going to save us from the evil, you know, Orange Hitler. So they're not really. I don't think anyone else, not anyone, but sure, people, some people in our audience. But I don't think most people are looking at this election as like the least bad option. They're looking at this as like the existential battle between good.
Right, right. Okay. Well, I specifically focused on independence, so and other
Right.
people have chimed in that both these candidates seem inferior. Like the Democrats have put up an inferior candidate, and the Republicans have put up an
You're correct.
inferior
The
candidate.
independent people are probably like,
Yes.
Jesus, this is just awful.
Yeah, this is a fucking horror show. Yeah,
Right. Right.
exactly.
Right.
So I'm kind of voicing my opinions about that situation publicly. Like, look, I'm not sure which of these, like, if gun to my head, I'm not sure which of these candidates I would vote for. So I'm still an undecided voter here,
Hmm.
believe it or not. But I'm getting sniped at from all the people who are partisans, right? The right wants me to vote for Trump, the left wants me to vote for Kamala, and they're just fucking being horrible people about it. So I put this tweet out, and I mean these are really the two big things that dissuade me strongly not to vote for Trump, right? And look, if Trump wins, I'm not going to lose any sleep. Like I think Trump is better on policy. I think it's a jump ball how things go after the election if Trump wins or if Kamala wins. I think both. Obviously, I think there's going to be some turmoil either way. And we've talked about that and kind of outlined that. So, but if Trump loses, these are the things that are making me think, well, I don't want to have to say, look, I voted for that guy and look at what a fucking shit he's being after he lost, right? So it's more I don't want to have anything to do with that if he ends up losing. So,
Mm-hmm.
and the two things that I cited were that he's gonna claim the election was stolen. He's not gonna accept the fact that he lost the election, even if he does lose the election. Right? It's gonna be a
Right.
replay of 2020 all over again, and that's gonna be horrible for the country. Like he's not gonna take one for the team like Al Gore did. He's not gonna say, okay, we've got to have the peaceful transfer of power. He's gonna fight it every step of the way.
Right.
And the other one is, if he does win, then he is. I'm not fully convinced that he is not going to go after his political rivals and
Mm-hmm.
spend most of his time pursuing retribution. Because look, I think the Democrats have kind of put him through hell. I think some of the cases around January 6th are probably warranted for at least, investigations. I don't know how firm the legal matter is. I think there are other cases that are just completely fucking farcical that they're targeting him for political reasons. I think that so there are reasons for him to go after his political rivals for retribution, right? He feels like he's been wrong and he wants to right the scales of justice. I don't think it's good for the country. So,
Mm-hmm.
and the nobody made any pushback on the
Well, and
first
also he's
claim.
not going to make some distinction between like the quote, justifiable cases against him and the unjustifiable cases against him because he thinks they're all unjustifiable.
Yeah, of course, in his mind. But I'm just trying, from a rational, objective observer, I think
Right.
there are probably cases that have merit and there are cases that don't have merit. But as soon as the Justice Department or these attorney generals start going after him for unjustified stuff, I mean, then the dam is broken, right? Obviously, we're in the realm of pursuing people for political ends, right? Not for actual legal ends. So that's a horrible road to go down. I don't think we should go down it. Nobody, the first claim that I made about him claiming that he won the election even if he loses, nobody contested that, right? No one is contesting that that's actually going to happen, which I mean, that's a
Ellen.
good reason not to vote for him. Right?
Right. Right.
So, but the second claim, people did contest. A lot of people on the right said, "Oh no, no, he said clearly that he's not going to go after his political rivals." And
What?
as you know,
That's like
and
delusional. What?
so you disagree with that?
He said literally the opposite this election cycle.
Yeah, I know. So like,
It's like
hold
the
on, I
fuck.
know this. I know. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. And look, so people point to Hillary Clinton. They say, look, he didn't go after Hillary Clinton. To which Sitch always responds,
Oh, he tried to. Several people have testified directly that he tried to do so, including I sent you that article
"Yeah, I read it.
with what was the guy's name?
I'm not sure.
Let me go back to the
There
article.
was they. There's a couple articles. I mean, there is. They started this story with no name sources, which you always question no name sources, obviously.
Right.
But then when those sources actually become named, right, because they're
That's when you
testifying
go,
in a
oh, interesting. Yeah.
yeah, because they're testifying in a case,
Oh
then
no,
you're
because yeah,
like,
so yeah, at first there was an anonymous source that was claiming that Donald Trump was trying to get Comey and other people to go after and Don McGahn to go after Clinton, and then it was the Mueller report actually found evidence of it. So
right, yeah. So the common narrative on the right is that, and look, Donald Trump echoes this narrative. Like he says, "Look, I could have gone after Hillary Clinton. I didn't want to go after Hillary Clinton, right?" That's not true. He did.
The
He
Mueller report showed that that he asked Jeff Sessions, and I believe Jeff Sessions acknowledges to Mueller in the investigation that Trump asked him to unrecuse himself to go after Hillary Clinton and prosecute Hillary Clinton,
right,
which Jeff Sessions did not do.
right.
Yeah.
So he tried to go after Hillary Clinton, but he
And
got
then he
pushed
said it,
back.
and then the third was that he literally said, and it's so annoying because we showed this on stream. He said it on Fox News at least twice. He directly said, he's like, the attorney general should go after Biden. He said it on Fox News. So it's just, I don't know. It's this really weird, obnoxious, like false rewriting of history that's going on around about this issue.
Okay,
And then
and
it's going to be very frustrating because if Trump does win, which I think is very likely, it looks like, the polls are definitely in his favor now. And I think it's very likely he's going to go after him. All the people that are saying that he wasn't going to go after him are going to say, oh, well, we're glad that he's going after them because they deserve it. Like there's going to be this total pivot on that.
okay, look, this is a perfect segue because there's a complication here because there are a lot of people in the replies to my tweet saying that he's not going to go after his political rivals, and here's proof, right? Some clip, and we're going to watch one of those clips.
Okay.
And then there are other people saying, yeah, this is why I'm voting for him, because he is going to go after his political rivals. Like, this is what they want, right? This is catering to his base. This is like a campaign promise to them, right?
Right.
Which I say the same thing about Kamala Harris on the left for immigration. Like, Sitch disagrees with me on this, but I can't fathom a world where she's going to do an immigration bill. She's just won the election. She's got all this political capital, saving the world from Donald Trump. And the first thing she's going to do is an immigration bill and give the middle finger to her base that got her elected. Hell no, that's not going to happen. So the idea that Trump isn't going to turn around and thank his base for getting him elected, like turning him to a 2-term president, making all of his dreams come true, make them happy and make himself happy, because he wants to go after all these fuckers that have made his life miserable. Like, it just seems, of course it's going to happen, right? It's plausible. It's likely. So, yeah. So we'll watch the clip. This clip probably is the best one that people sent me. It's Dr. Phil. And look, a lot of people on a lot of different podcasts have sensed this. They're like, look, Trump, this whole I'm going to go after my political rivals when I get elected doesn't play well with independents. Independents have a lot of sway in the election. Maybe you should back out of that. Maybe you should clearly state that you're not going to go after your political rivals, right? That America's going to get past this, that you're going to strengthen our institutions, not tear them down, right? But Trump is in a tough situation, just looking at this cynically from a political perspective, because he might lose votes from the base who want, him to go hog wild after the Democrats, right?
Right.
They want that. So he can't come right out and say, oh, I'm not going to go after my political rivals. But at the same time, he wants to kind of hint at that, right?
Right. Well, I mean, he said it. This is my promise. He said it very directly, multiple times in multiple places, constantly.
Right. That he is going to go after his political rivals.
Yes. I mean, I just found, I literally a clip of him saying in a speech, I will appoint a real special prosecutor to go after the most corrupt president of the history of the United States of America, Joe Biden, and the entire Biden crime family. Name a special prosecutor. And then the audience cheers, lock him up, lock him up. So it's like,
when is that?
Let me see.
Oh, that's rich.
This was last June in some sort of campaign rally or something.
June. Well, that's quite a ways away, Sitch. He might have evolved. His position might have evolved.
Oh, his positions have changed since then. Okay.
Maybe. Give the guy some credit. You're too tough on Trump, Sitch. You really are.
Well, but again, it's just annoying because I know the pivot is, because there are a lot of people that are like, yeah, space, go do that. And it's like, okay, obviously we disagree with that. But then there's a bunch of people that are just saying, that's not going to happen. It's like, well, make up your minds.
Yeah.
Get on the same page.
So look, I think it's likely. I do think it's likely. Look, and you guys can hold. The election's coming pretty quick here. I think it's 2 weeks away.
Yeah, so we're gonna find out pretty soon,
Yeah.
one way or the other.
Sitch and I are going to be streaming on election day night. We'll probably have some fans on. We'll probably have some guests on. So we're going to find out. We're going to find out. And you guys can give us the I told you so. The long and hard I told you so. When Trump doesn't go after any of his political rivals.
We'll see.
But chances are, look.
Well, so wait, because I thought, so have you changed your mind that you think he is? Because I thought originally you were thinking that he probably wasn't.
I think it is likely, to be honest with you, for the same reason that the Kamala Harris is likely not to do anything about immigration.
The immigration.
Look, he has double incentives, right?
Yeah, because
he
wants
to.
Him to. He wants to, and his base wants him to. Yeah, you're correct. That's a good way of like predicting the behavior.
The only thing standing in the way is the same thing that was standing in the way last time. Somebody is going to put their political career on the line to get into bed with him and go after these people. Like he's going to have to hire an attorney general that's going to play ball with him, right? But I think of all these AGs who are like going after him to make their political career, and I think, well, that's easy, right?
Right. There's got to be one on the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
There's got to be someone out there that has nothing going on. This is the guy that he tried to put in charge of DOJ, right? The environmental
lawyer. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Somebody's going to make their career on this. So anyway, you haven't seen this clip.
I have not seen this clip, no.
Okay. So this clip, just to let you know, is Trump very clearly denying that he's going to go after his political rivals. Dr. Phil deeply, deeply wants to support Donald Trump. So it's kind of like, I think it's a big thing for him. Ready to go?
Alrighty. Hit it.
The Chinese. It should have never happened. What we've done, I think that was the most embarrassing day. And I have to tell you, if that didn't happen, I don't know that Putin would have gone in. I think Putin watched that catastrophe and he said, hey, this is a great time to attack Ukraine.
You think it emboldened him?
I think so, yeah, I think so.
Let me ask you this. Right now, headlines everywhere, of course, you don't respect, but there are headlines out there that say, when you win your second term, that you are going to make the people that have come after you pay. Retribution and revenge.
Yeah.
And let me ask you this before you even respond to that.
What was that? Yeah. What was that? What was that first? Yeah, Sitch. What was the meaning of that? Yeah.
I mean, if you want to be charitable, it's ultra charitable. It was just like a confirmation that he understands the words coming out of his mouth.
Okay. Was that a yeah? Or was that a yeah? Which one was it?
I want to play what if with you for a minute. What if when you win this election, you said, enough is enough. Too much is too much. This is a race to the bottom, and it stops here. It stops now. They've made a half a dozen or more major attempts to take you off the playing board, and you just said, it stops now. I am going to rise above this cycle of ugly. I'm not going to play this gotcha retribution game. It stops now. I'll forgive. I'll not ever forget, but I am not going to play this retribution game. I am going to put the American people first, not getting my pound of flesh first. You got to do what you got to do, but I'm going to put this country as the shining city on the hill. I am moving forward. I'm not playing the retribution game. It stops with me. It stops here. What if you took that approach?
I'm okay with that. I am. I'm okay with that. Sometimes, I'm sure in certain moments, I wouldn't be. You know, when you go through what I've been through, they spied on my campaign. You know, they spied on my campaign. Remember I announced it? They did things that people don't even talk about. And I got rid of Comey, and I got rid of a lot of people. I got rid of a lot of people. Thousands of people. At the VA, I cleaned it, 9,000 people. They were sadists. I got rid of them. But what they've done is bad. With all of that being said, we have to unite the country, Phil. The country has to be united. This country is a mess.
Every situation needs a hero. What a great opportunity for you to stop this cycle, this vicious cycle of gotcha, gotcha back, gotcha, gotcha back. Every situation needs a hero. What a great opportunity to step up and say, you know what, it stops here, it stops with me.
I think you'll be impressed. We have to unite the country. We have to save the country. That's not really saving the country. There are people that did some bad things. I know who they are and all of that. But as an example, with Hillary Clinton, I'd mention her name. Everyone's screaming, thousands and thousands. Yeah, we just had 107,000 people show up in New Jersey. You saw that. 25,000 people showed up in the South Bronx.
In the South Bronx.
But we had Wildwood, New Jersey, 107,000 people. It was a record. They've never had that. When I mentioned the name Hillary in the previous to the last election, they said, lock her up, lock her up, lock her up. But I would be there, and I'm trying to almost quiet them down. They were going crazy.
We're letting it go for a long time, so.
Right.
You got
Okay.
you have any
I mean,
response,
this is a revisionist history, because obviously when they were shouting "lock her up," Trump was all like totally 100% on board with it. So he wasn't like, this wasn't the moment like the John McCain moment when the woman calls Obama a Muslim and he's like, no, that's not the case.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been news, right? If he tried to quiet him up. It was big
Right.
news when John McCain did that to the lady. Yeah.
How would
Let's
it
see,
be?
During campaign rallies in 2016, Trump sometimes paused his remarks as his supporters engaged in chants of "lock her up," giving the chance time to continue. On other occasions, he explicitly repeated those words himself, saying, quote, "For what she's done, they should lock her up," Trump said after the crowd chanted "lock her up" at an October 26 rally in North Carolina. "Lock her up is right," he said at a rally the same month in Pennsylvania.
At the debate, he said, that's right, you'd be in jail. He said that in the presidential debate.
Yeah, right. He did, yes. In June 2016, in a speech in California, he said Hillary Clinton has to go to jail. She has to go to jail, okay? And then it says, he said at the presidential debate, he said, "It's awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country because you'd be in jail." So he referred to himself in third person and said that to Hillary at the debate.
Right.
So why is he lying about it here?
Because he obviously wants to make the case that he could have done terrible things last time and didn't do them.
Well, no, but he could say, I think it'd be a better lie for him to just say, well, I didn't do it. I mean, it wouldn't be a lie because he didn't, but even though he attempted to, but so he could say a half truth of, well, I didn't do anything when I was president, as opposed to saying, kind of lying about the fact that he was trying to quell, the voices of people in the crowds when he ran on Lock Her Up.
He's selling it.
Okay.
The last election, they said, lock her up, lock her up, lock her up. But I would be there, and I'm trying to almost quiet them down. They were going crazy. How would it be I win, and I lock Hillary Clinton up? The president's wife, the former president's wife, I locked her up. And how would it be if I took the Secretary of State, she was Secretary of State, and we threw her into a prison someplace? I think it was terrible. And yet now they're trying to do that with me. Think of it. I didn't want to do that. I could have done that pretty easily. She busted up her phones and she busted up her laptops and what they did, and they put bleach bit. You know what bleach bit is? It's so expensive nobody uses it because it's an acid and it wipes everything out. Could have done it really easy. Don't forget, she disobeyed.
Wait. You see that? I never heard this clip before. Does he not realize bleach bit's like a program? It's not a literal acid. The fuck's he talking about? This is like we're talking about software.
He must not know, but
It's so expensive. He thinks that like they put her hard drive in like a literal acid, expensive acid even. Interesting. Okay.
A subpoena from the United States Congress, and she broke up all this machinery, all this technology after she got the subpoena. Think of it. How would it look if I took a president of the United States wife and threw her into a prison. I hated it because I wanted to bring the country together, and I largely did. And I brought it together through success because it was the most successful economy in the history of our country. Okay. Now, the difference is they're trying to do it to me. And maybe you could feel differently about it, but I don't feel differently. Retribution is going to be through success. We're going to make it very successful. We have to bring the country together.
And you can do that. Because let me tell you, this revenge thing there's a lot of research, and Dr. James Kimmel at Yale has done this research and seen neurologically in the brain that there's an addiction to revenge, just like to opioid or whatever. And that even if people commit a crime and they get arrested for it, they see themselves as the victim and they want revenge against the person that arrested them. And then the person that arrested them gets hammered. So now that person says, okay, well, I'm not going to put up with that. So they go back after the criminal. Now the criminal has been victimized again. And so we get into this loop where we're addicted to it back and forth. It's got to stop. And we're better than this. We must be better than this. And you're big enough to do it. Every situation needs a hero. You can stop this. You can say, well, no, I think it ends here.
I mean, first of all, I got to say, I got to give pretty big props to Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil is a pretty based opinion here. Definitely talking about being American hero. It's funny because he's trying to play very heavily on, I mean, I guess it's a smart move. He's trying to play very heavily on Trump's ego to be like, this is like what the great hero of America would do, this great heroic action. So, which is a good strategy, but I think ultimately the issue with it comes down to what you said, which is if you have a candidate who personally wants to do something and their supporters also want him to do something, it seems very likely that at least they're going to attempt to do that action.
Yeah.
I don't think this strategy is going to work from Dr. Phil, but
he must have read the McMasterson book because he's definitely doing that. Like,
right.
Catering to Trump's ego thing.
Mm-hmm.
He should have gone with the contrarian angle. He should have said, listen, what would be really based if you did?
If you locked them all up. He should have leaned heavy into it.
Why should I lock them up? Why do you think I should do that?
I think it would be fantastic if you just went whole hog hard on Biden and Kamala. I guess this is pre-Kamala, you know.
In the McMasterson's book, the guy, the author, what was his position? He was like head of the NSA or something. He said that,
or the other guy,
McMasters. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was national security chief, right?
He was national security advisor. Yeah.
So he said Trump was contrarian, reflexively contrarian. So he would always structure things in a way that Trump could be contrarian and do the right thing. He would tell him what world leaders wanted him to do, knowing that Trump would do the opposite of that, which would be good to be clear, for foreign policy. He wouldn't tell Trump the opposite to try to get Trump to be contrarian to him. Right.
He would say, well, China wants you to do X.
Right.
Russia wants you to do X. Whatever country wants you to do X. So that Trump would be like, oh, well, if they want me to do that, then screw that guy.
Fuck them. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So maybe Dr. Phil should have been like, you know,
China really wants you to lock her up.
The Democrats really want you to go after Kamala when the election's over so that they can say, look, Donald Trump's abusing power. He's not going to get anything passed.
Oh, yeah. That would have been good. That would have actually been good.
Move.
Yeah. The Chad move, but Dr. Phil didn't. Maybe he didn't read the book.
So here, well, let me. How much of this more did you want to watch of this clip?
Well, just till the end, just till they move on to a different topic.
Gotcha.
I think you'll be proud of the job we do. And, you know, the word revenge is a very strong word, but maybe we have revenge through success. But that's what I'd like to see. I want to see the country survive, because this country is not going to survive like this. And really, you know, the expression, I think it's the greatest theme ever in politics, maybe, because it's the biggest movement. We want to make America great again, and that's what we have to do. And I think you'll be very proud of the job we do.
You know, the Pope has a book out that he's...
Okay, they're pretty much moving on now.
Okay. Here, let me play this. I'll play the clip I found. It's pretty short. Okay, it was at, let's see, 31-17.
I will appoint a real special prosecutor to go after the most corrupt president in the history of the United States of America, Joe Biden, and the entire Biden crime family. Name a special prosecutor. And all others involved with the destruction of our elections, our borders, and our country itself. They're destroying our country.
So there you go. There's pretty explicit. Also, I found he tweeted this. He tweeted this in 2020.
This was June, by the way. So
Yeah, this was June of 2023. So this is
it's
obviously
like
before.
5 months ago. So
No. This was last year.
oh, look at that.
This is last year, right? June of
This
2023.
was when he was running for the nomination.
Yes. And then in 2020, he tweeted out. Too many tabs open. I just lost it. Oh, he tweeted out. This is right before the. Let's see. This is September. No, this is October. So it's right before the election. He says, "Do something," in all caps. "Do something about this. The biggest of all political scandals in history. Biden, Obama, and crooked Hillary led this treasonous plot. Biden shouldn't be allowed to run. Got caught." And then he said, "Where are the arrests? Where are all the arrests?"
Right.
So interesting.
Yeah, I'm not an avid Trump rally listener, so I wouldn't know
Mm-hmm.
what's going on. But it was interesting that there was so much of the response was, "Oh, Adam, you're making me want to vote for Trump even more." Like the two reasons that I'm thinking, look, I can't vote for Trump because of these things. They're like, "Oh, that's why I am voting for Trump."
Well, you had 3 responses, which were very interesting. There was that. The first one was that one. I'm going to vote for Donald Trump harder because I want him to lock all these people up.
Right.
That was the first response. Second response is
he wants all the institutions to burn to the ground.
Right. Second response was, "Oh, Adam, Donald Trump didn't say that. He's not going to do all that. That's left-wing propaganda." Right. That's the second response.
Right.
Third response, which was even the most fascinating, was all of our left-wing obsessed fans saying, "Oh my God, Adam, how dare you? You're a bad person for even considering voting for Donald Trump." It was kind of hilarious because you made the tweet, and at first I looked at it and I'm like, "Oh, you're kind of getting pushback. You're pushing back on like a lot of the pro-Trump stuff." And then the left-wing people started attacking you too, like very, very vehemently attacking you. So
Yeah.
or violently attacking you, I should say. I know. I think it's ridiculous. It's just so funny that, when we talk on Twitter, there's like this contingency of delusional people that have no actual clue what we support or stand
say
for,
or do, or they never
anything,
watch the
right?
show
They
or
never
anything.
They
Yeah.
just watch out of context clips or something. So I just thought that was pretty hilarious. That you have like you're kind of in a bunch of argument with people on the right, and then all of a sudden a bunch of left wingers are like, "This isn't good enough. You're not strong enough. You didn't say Trump is Hitler. You literally said you could consider voting for him. Burn to hell forever." You're like, "Oh Jesus."
Well, I did say I didn't think Hillary was qualified to be president. So
Kamala.
what did I say?
Hillary.
Oh,
It's a Freudian slip.
well, all this talk about Hillary.
Right.
Where's the tweet?
Okay, you want to?
I said this is a very tough election. I like Trump better on policy, and Kamala Harris seems completely unqualified to be president. That said, here are 2 big reasons not to vote for Donald Trump. Spoiler: neither of them is January 6th. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And Zero Fucks pulled out. Destiny actually responded to this tweet, which was pretty fucking hilarious. So,
Right.
and I crafted a response to Destiny as well, but you can go over to Twitter if you want to look at that.
Right. Cool. The other story, I guess, before we watch the Jordan Peterson, Richard Dawkins thing, was there anything else you want to say about that, or?
No.
Okay.
I didn't realize we were going to watch the Jordan Peterson, fucking Richard Dawkins thing, but that's a
Yeah.
great idea. Yeah.
The only thing I want to say before we start watching that is, so there's this story that came out. It's a very weird story. in terms of how it's being written about, which is, so there's a story that came out that there was actually, I should probably just bring up the story to see what the woman, there's a woman who died. She was in the military, and there's a story about whether Trump would actually pay for her funeral service or not. Did you follow anything about this story?
No, let's hear it.
Okay. So there's a story that came out in the Atlantic. It's about Vanessa Guillen. I don't know if I'm saying her name right. She's a 20 Guillen. She's a 20-year-old Army private, and she was killed at Fort Hood. You might remember the story. And her body was like buried near the base, and then they found it sometime later.
Wow.
And yeah, I remember the story sort of like happening at the time. And so this new part sort of about the story is that supposedly, so Trump like met with the family, and you know, it was all recorded and it was televised and all this stuff. And Trump said publicly that he would help pay for, personally would help pay for any of the funeral expenses.
Okay.
And so this story just came out in the Atlantic claiming that now you can take this how you're going to take this, that a source familiar, right? So an anonymous source claimed that would Trump heard or received the bill that the funeral was going to cost $60,000. Okay.
Right.
Which, first of all, I'm very confused as to why the funeral would cost $60,000. I know funerals can be expensive, but that seems like a lot.
Well, there's a huge planning fee.
Yeah, I don't know. So
$25,000.
Right. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. And it was kind of weird because like the article doesn't go into that. And I was like, that was my immediate thought was, why was the funeral so expensive in the first place? And I even looked up a video of, because there were two funerals, which is often in these cases, there's a public one, a private one. Public one, you know, they had a very nice coffin, which I'm sure coffins are very expensive. The coffin was carried through like some part of the city in like a horse-drawn carriage. I'm like, okay, that's expensive.
That's pricey.
Right. And then
was it a Pegasus?
It was not a Pegasus. And then they had like all these flowers. Flowers are fresh flowers are very expensive, and there's lots of them. So I'm like, okay, I could see it being like pricey, but still the 60,000 seems weird to me. But anyway, none of the articles really that I saw really dived into why it was so expensive, which I was curious about. But so apparently, according to this Atlantic article, according to the anonymous source, is that when he heard that it cost $60,000, Trump's response was, "It doesn't cost $60,000 to bury a fucking Mexican."
What?
Then he
no way.
And then he turned to his chief of staff, Mark Meadows, and said, "Don't pay it. Can you believe it? Fucking people trying to rip me off." Okay, so this is the accusation from the anonymous source, right?
Wow.
Now, so, you know, I'm always kind of, you always have to be very skeptical of these anonymous sources. And so they reached out, the journalist reached out to the attorney for the family that was representing the family and asked them for a comment about this. And the attorney and both the sister of the person that died both said they didn't. Now, this is where it's kind of weird. Well, they both put out a statement. I guess I'll just read the statement. They said, "I'm beyond grateful for all the support President Donald Trump showed our family during a trying time. I witnessed firsthand how President Trump honors our nation's heroes' service. We are grateful for everything he has done and continues to do to support our troops."
That's a family statement?
Yes. It sounds like a very generic statement, but that was the family statement. So then, but anyway, so it turns out that after this article is published, the attorney for the family claims that the journalist that wrote the article, whose name is Jeffrey Goldberg, lied specifically about the article. Which is pretty interesting, is a pretty strong claim because they're an attorney. An attorney usually knows better than to say someone is lying if they're not lying, because they don't want to get in sort of trouble, right?
Yeah.
The attorney said, "After having dealt with hundreds of reporters in my legal career, this is unfortunately the first time I have to go on record and call Jeffrey Goldberg The Atlantic. Not only did he misrepresent our conversation, but he outright lied in his sensational story. More importantly, he used and exploited my clients and Vanessa Guillen's murderer for cheap political gain." Okay. But she doesn't say what he lied about.
Right.
And that's kind of weird. Now, on one hand, I'm like, okay, maybe it's fair if the family's planning a lawsuit, maybe they don't want to say exactly what he lied about. On the other hand, this is what's kind of weird about all these statements is that the very direct question that anyone would ask is, did Donald Trump actually pay for the funeral service? No one has answered that question. They just say, we're grateful for the support Donald Trump showed us. Right? They don't say, yes, he paid. And then when
Yeah,
she
that would
says,
go a long way towards telling if the story was true, right?
right, because if they just said, no, of course he paid, then that's the end of the story, right?
Right.
But they keep saying that they're grateful, but they don't say whether he paid or not. So it's kind of, that's the only thing that makes it like that's why this story is so weird. Because like, okay, I'm going to probably side on the fact that I don't think Donald Trump said it. I'm very skeptical that Donald Trump screamed, it doesn't take $60,000 to bury a Mexican. I don't think Donald Trump said
Yeah, that seems...
okay. This is crazy.
He
right?
seems a little smarter than...
Right. That seems really
yeah.
stupid. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I don't really believe that part of the story. But then I just find it weird that none of the family members, now we have the lawyer says that the journalist lied, doesn't say what the journalist lied about. You have the family member, the sister, who said, let me pull it up here. She
Did the
said,
funeral already take place and it had the horse and the flowers and all
yeah.
that?
This happened like a while ago.
Okay. So
Happened,
they
like,
did
years
have
ago.
a pricey...
Yeah. All this stuff already happened.
pricey funeral.
Right. The sister of the victim said, wow, I don't appreciate how you're exploiting my sister's death for politics, hurtful and disrespectful to the important changes she made for service members. President Donald Trump did nothing but show respect to my family and Vanessa. In fact, I voted for President Trump today. So
Wow. Okay.
obviously, you would think that if there was some sort of dust up between the family of a veteran who died tragically and some dust up between Trump promising to pay for it, not paying for it, that there'd be some kind of animosity between the family and Trump. You don't think they would support Trump and all this other stuff. So that's why this whole thing is kind of bizarre to me because again, this all makes the fact that the family or the sister's coming out against the article, the lawyer, the family's coming out against the article saying he's lying, makes me think that the article is a lie. But at the same time, it's like, what? None of them are saying that he paid for it. So it's like, So I'm just wondering what's going on here. I feel like there's like more to this story than that's being reported on. There's some element of this that that hasn't been reported on exactly correctly.
Do you have
maybe,
speculation or?
well, so apparently there was some bill that they tried to pass in response to this death. And it was a bill that I believe has something to do with like normally when there's a sexual assault allegation or murder or something, you have to have the commanding officer be like in charge of the investigation. Now, I don't know the story with this victim, but I guess it has something to do with this. And the bill that this family was pushing for, which has now been passed, it actually it started under Trump and then was eventually passed under Biden because it took like a year or so, was it allowed the victim or the victim's family to try to get a special prosecutor to investigate instead of relying on the commanding officer of the base to investigate.
Yeah, because there's a huge conflict of interest there, right?
There could potentially be, yes.
Yeah.
So maybe what's going on is that maybe Trump did say that he was going to pay for it, and then he didn't because either maybe they didn't need to because supposedly the military was supposed to pay for it, or maybe the family just was fine with him not paying for it, even though he said he was going to, and they were just happy that they got this bill, in place or something, and that's it. So that's all I could think of is what's possibly going on here. Is that he probably did say he was going to pay for it, probably didn't pay for it, but that they're still happy with the end result anyway. So they didn't really care.
Yeah.
So, but then in that same article, supposedly they said that that Donald Trump. This is kind of what I think we were talking about this before the stream started. That Donald Trump supposedly made the comment that I need the kind of generals that Hitler had.
It's like,
right. But again, this is from, I believe these are from anonymous sources. So, you could take that as you will.
Yeah. I think I said this before the stream. I've just seen so much wild TDS that people spin things into some crazy story that, maybe they're just their perception of the situation is just completely wrong. So
Right.
it's hard. It is hard for me to imagine that Trump would say something so incendiary just because Trump seems to be aware of people's reactions.
Mm-hmm.
He seems to be hyper conscious of how things are going to be, like how that would be completely taken.
Well, it's unfortunate that everything is so politically charged and polarized because it does make it difficult to discern fact from fiction. Because even though in the original Atlantic article, it was an anonymous source that said Donald Trump said that, today or yesterday, John Kelly, who was President Trump's chief of staff, who very famously does not like Trump anymore after working for him for a year or two, came out and said in an article that he also heard Trump say things positively about Hitler a couple of times while he was working for Trump.
Right. Yeah.
Let's see, where is it in the article? He said,
and
Kelly confirmed previous reports on more than one occasion Trump spoke positive of Hitler's. Kelly said he commented more than once that, quote, Hitler did some good things too. Mr. Kelly's said Trump told him. Kelly, in response, said, first of all, you should never say that. He told Mr. Trump, but if you knew what Hitler was all about from the beginning to the end, everything he did was in support of his racist, fascist life. You know the philosophy, so that nothing he did you could argue was good. It was certainly not done for the right reasons. Mr. Kelly said that would usually end the conversation, but Mr. Trump would occasionally bring it up again. So, see, this is a problem. Kelly should have been like, "What do you mean by that? What do you mean he did? Like, what are the good things he did?" Here's the question. Here's what I want to know. Did he make that statement? When did Candace Owens make that comment?
well, how
When
do
did
you
she
know he
make
wasn't being sarcastic? How do you know he wasn't making a joke?
I don't know. I mean, obviously Kelly didn't interpret it as a joke.
Well, yeah, but like he obviously hates his guts. Why would he? Why would he interpret it as like maybe he knows it's sarcastic, but he knows it's incendiary enough that he can use it against him.
So
I mean,
Candace
we joke around and stuff like that. Like, why wouldn't?
Okay. So Candace Owens made that comment. That was in February 2019. So when was John Kelly serving Trump? Was it around the same time period? I'm kind of curious if Trump fucking watched the Candace Owens video and was like, "Oh, that's a smart lady," just repeated it.
Oh,
Oh
yeah,
my God.
that would be an interesting take.
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit, he just got done watching a Candace Owens video.
I believe, yeah, no, wait, I believe John Kelly was serving Trump at that time. So it's entirely possible that Donald Trump watched the Candace Owens video. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. He left White House Chief of Staff 1 month before that Candace Owens video. So again, I guess the timing doesn't line up exactly. So that would have been a funny little thought process, but no.
That would be, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the context of the situation. Like maybe it is an off-color joke, and maybe
Well, obviously, if you
it's
read the
in
whole
a,
article from Kelly, I mean, so
no,
Kelly wrote this.
I know. Look, I read the article from Kelly,
Right.
so I know.
Yeah.
Like Kelly pitches it as, I had a conversation with him why you should never say that, why it looks bad in public.
Right.
He makes all kinds of assertions. Yeah, no, I get it. The thing that I said before the stream started was that the problem is I don't know if Kelly is lying.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
People can lie, right? Obviously, a lot of people believe everything Trump says is a lie. Right? Kelly can lie.
Sure.
I don't know Kelly's motivation to lie or not to lie.
Right.
So why is Kelly more credible than Trump?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I don't really know anything about Kelly. So, but so again, I don't know. I don't know enough about Kelly, but Kelly wrote, or he didn't write. He answered a bunch of questions for this very long New York Times article where he, says Trump is this, he says all the things, Trump likes dictators. Trump has no respect for law, which that is true, according to my assessment as well, that he thinks Trump is a danger to the country, et cetera, et cetera. So,
yeah.
Now you said, because I asked the question before stream, I said it feels like every person that worked for Donald Trump comes away with very negative views of him. And then
Right.
you said Kellyanne Conway has a positive view of him. So would she be
Yes.
one of the people outside of that mold?
Kellyanne Conway has a very positive view of him. She wrote a book talking about him. Her perceptions match up pretty much with other people's perceptions, but she just has a better, more positive spin on it.
Mm-hmm.
And like she still supports him to this day. So, and I read the McMasterson's book. I don't think McMasterson had a bunch of horrible shit to say about Donald Trump.
Well, he didn't have positive things. He thought Donald Trump was a pretty inept president. But I don't remember him saying anything like he said in these like hyper incendiary comments.
Mm-hmm.
So, but he didn't think Donald Trump was a good president.
Did he ever call Trump inept in the book?
I thought he did in the beginning. I'm trying to.
I'm not recalling
remember
him calling Trump inept.
I have a very strong record. He definitely painted a picture of Donald Trump as being incompetent. I don't remember if he said the exact words, but that's the picture he paints, is of Donald Trump not being a competent president.
I thought it was more Donald Trump was easily persuaded through manipulative means.
That's incompetent, isn't it? Like, what do you?
Is it okay?
I feel like
I mean,
that's
if that's your perception, sure.
Right.
I don't think it's good to be manipulated. To be
obviously not.
Yeah, but look, I would put incompetency like several rungs below being able. Like everyone is able. Most people can be manipulated to some extent, right?
Sure.
An incompetent person is just like you can't really do anything with that. When I say incompetent, I think, okay, this person has no redeemable quality. Okay. So, but I think Trump has plenty of redeemable qualities. I think Trump is like a great salesman. Mm-hmm. You disagree with that? You don't think Trump
he is a good salesman. I wouldn't disagree with that.
And is the presidency somewhat a sales job?
To some extent.
Like if you're trying to get legislation through the Congress, aren't you calling up people and selling them on your legislation? Isn't that basically the job?
But I think there's more important stuff, a lot more being president than just being a good salesman, obviously.
Oh, I agree. I totally agree. But I'm only saying, when I think of someone who's incompetent, I think of someone who has no redeeming qualities whatsoever. Right. Like an incompetent person doesn't know how to sell anything.
Maybe. Yeah. So Zero Fucks sent me, there's a tweet from Nick Ayers. Nick Ayers was the chief of staff to Pence. Mm-hmm. Nick Ayers has said today on X, I've avoided commenting on staff leaks or rumors or even lies as it relates to my time at the White House, but General Kelly's comments regarding President Trump are too egregious to ignore. As with each of them, more than most, and his commentary is patently false. So Nick Ayers is weighing in and saying that it was not true.
Saying that his account are lies, or I guess they're lies. He's saying, he's saying he's a liar.
That's what Nick Ayers is claiming. Yes.
Right.
So, and then Strange sent me a story. This is from Newsweek. Did Trump snub soldiers' funeral bill? What we know. It says, according to reports, the lawyer said some of the costs were covered by the Army and some were covered by donations. It said that in the original one. Newsweek contacted, here we go. Newsweek contacted the lawyer via an email to her law firm's office for further comment. Quote, any suggestion that President Trump disparaged Ms. Gulian or refused to pay for her funeral expenses is absolutely false. Oh, Mark Meadows. Well, that's Mark Meadows. Mark Meadows, the chief of staff, said on Twitter, he was nothing but kind, gracious, want to make sure the military and the U.S. government did the right thing by Vanessa Gulian and her family. The Atlantic reported that Natalie Quam, the lawyer for Gulian's family, said she sent the bill for the funeral to the White House and that no money was ever received by the family from Trump. So again, but that kind of just breeds the original question I said, which is the family seems happy with Trump, but they also have not confirmed that Trump paid for anything. So it's kind of this very weird story.
Hmm.
So I don't know. We'll see. I don't think any of these stories are going to have really any fucking impact whatsoever on the election at all. I know some people were calling this some kind of October surprise. I don't think any of this matters.
Yeah, it doesn't
the-
seem like a big October.
The people that, hate Trump are going to obviously believe the line about not paying for Mexican. They're going to believe the line about Hitler. People that support Trump are not going to believe those things. The undecided people, if there are people that are still undecided at this point, I don't think it's going to have a substantial impact on any of that. So
I don't think we've ever joked around about Hitler per se, but I know we've joked around about a bunch of stuff that we're obviously not serious about. Obviously, we're joking. Obviously, we're being sarcastic. That people could spin into some story about how we're terrible, nefarious people who
maybe,
just
I don't know.
want society to burn.
Maybe, who knows?
But it's completely untrue. So look, people have an axe to grind. I don't know what happened here.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I just, yeah, it is what it is. Okay, good. Something else.
Okay, so did you watch any of this?
Yeah, I watched about half of it. And it's really good, but I didn't finish it yet. So
yeah, so
want to jump to the part we haven't finished.
This is Jordan Peterson versus Richard Dawkins, or I shouldn't say versus, talking to Richard Dawkins. It's very interesting.
It is very much a versus, though. It really is.
I guess it is. Well, it feels like a one-sided versus. It feels like Jordan Peterson is excited to talk to Richard Dawkins, and Richard Dawkins is excited to try to pigeonhole Jordan Peterson into giving up something. Now, I have a couple time codes that I've pulled out here.
Okay, good.
That Sweet. It's fascinating to me that this is always kind of the thing that happens when Jordan Peterson talks to anti-theists, or the anti-theists cover Jordan Peterson, is that they always want to get him to admit that he doesn't literally believe the Bible is literally true.
Yeah.
That he doesn't believe that Jesus or Moses or these people were literally real people.
That it was a historical document. Yeah.
Right. And it's kind of weird to me because it's like, who cares? Why is that so important? Why do you think that that's so important to them? Like, what's the thought process? What's the motivation behind it?
It is super important because people want to believe that their myths actually happened. They want to believe that they were real. Mm-hmm. Things that are real, things that are, I mean, this is why Hollywood says based on a true story, right? Because it's more exciting to think this really happened. This is something that happened.
I understand why, from a religious perspective, it's important to know or believe whether the stories are real or not. I understand that completely.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm asking is, why is it so important for them to get Jordan Peterson to acknowledge that he doesn't think the stories are literally true?
Because they have a belief that religion causes people to believe factually incorrect things. And their belief is that if human beings adopt a only believe factually true things mentality, that society will be a grand utopia. A grand scientific age will emerge. There will be no more pain and suffering. Death will no longer exist. Everything will be hearts and unicorns.
Okay, maybe that's the case.
Yeah. So they're going, look, you are standing in the way of our project. When you don't come out and answer correctly to the did it actually happen question, you are indulging the people who want to believe fancifully untrue things. You fucking moron. Yeah. So that's the game that they're playing here, which is interesting because Jordan Peterson, with his 175 IQ, whatever it is, he has a way of saying, well, I mean, it's not factually correct, but it is true.
Guys are crazy.
It totally fucks with them. Yeah. And especially, look, this is what is so good about this conversation here, because obviously Jordan Peterson knows that he is playing on Richard Dawkins' field. Richard Dawkins is an evolutionary biologist. All of Jordan Peterson's understanding of religion and philosophy is through an evolutionary lens. Now, Richard Dawkins has pretty much dismissed Jordan Peterson as a fundamentalist Bible thumper, right? Like Dawkins probably doesn't even believe Jordan Peterson believes in evolution, right? So he doesn't know that Jordan Peterson is right there in his fucking backyard.
Right.
So he keeps saying things that Dawkins is like, I mean, that's a pretty interesting perspective, but like he doesn't quite know how to respond. Dawkins did a talk with Brett Weinstein, which I don't know if you watched.
I
This
did.
was like forever ago.
It
Yeah.
was about was it generational? Wait, what was it called? Generational evolution.
Yeah. Weinstein has a perspective, like he doesn't believe in group selection. He believes in lineage level selection,
Lineage level selection.
yeah, which
right,
he's
okay.
never bothered to explain. Like Brett, bad Brett. And I think his thinking on that is that as soon as he starts talking about lineage level selection, people are going to compare him to Hitler and the Nazis. And in Brett's current situation where he's like constantly targeted and
Doesn't he kind of explain it
mischaracterized,
in the conversation with Dawkins?
he
Thought he
does a
kind of
little
did.
bit. And people did
Right.
make this association and did try to say, oh, this Brett's a Nazi and a fucking eugenicist and
God.
shit. Yeah, he did. He did.
Right.
Look, I exchanged emails with Brett's assistant. I was trying to get him on the show to talk about this. And then it dawned on me, well, you can't really talk about this just all willy-nilly with everybody fucking trying to
Right.
cancel him and shit, take his house away from him, take his kids away from him, whatever they're trying to do, right? So so it's interesting here. And the thing that I like about Dawkins is just like zero fucks given, man. Dawkins will talk about anything. Like he's totally stood up to the trans activists, you know, showed major balls there.
Mm-hmm.
So like he'll have this conversation if Jordan Peterson can make it happen. And I do
Right.
think Dawkins is ultimately wrong. I think the group level selectionists are closer to the truth. And I think group level selection adaptation is the best way to describe religion, any religion. So,
Mm-hmm.
and Dawkins, I don't think believes in that. And I just think he's wrong. Look, Dawkins famously came out and did this quote. You might have seen it where he's like, he gives an example of somebody who was proven wrong, some famous scientist who was proven wrong with evidence. And he sets it up like you're going to think the scientist was like, oh my God, I was wrong. Holy shit, how embarrassing. And the scientist says, thank you for correcting me on this. Like I've been wrong all these years, but it's good to finally be right. Like he's totally magnanimous about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dawkins should do that. That should be Dawkins. Dawkins should say, look, I was wrong about evolution. I was wrong about religion. I wrote this book, The God Delusion, everything in it I'm pretty much wrong on. There's evolutionary explanations.
I don't know is there like really hard hitting evidence for group or lineage selection
Yes.
over individual selection?
Yes. David Sloan Wilson has several books
I know
on this.
I know that's his big thing, right?
Yeah, look, and they've done experiments with like water skippers and shit where they show the group level selection and do all the math and all that shit.
Right.
Yes.
But I mean, I've never read the counters to David Sloan Wilson's stuff to see like, because there's like hundreds of counters. I don't know.
Because
what they
all
are,
the people that would counter just dismiss it out of hand. They don't really counter, which is.
I don't know. I'm just saying, I agree with you that I believe some form of group selection is probably true. I'm just saying,
Right.
I don't know if it's so like etched obviously in stone evidentiary with so much evidence that Dawkins should like 100%, bite the bullet and say it was wrong.
Right. And I get what you're saying. Like it's still an evolving debate. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, but look, he should at least come out. Look, that's my beef. All they do is hand wave it away. Like he doesn't even come out. He's like, oh my, like the standard response is group level selection has been disproven. Go away.
Right. Right.
It's like they're not even looking at the water skippers. What the fuck? What the fuck? This kid, this grad student of David Sloan Wilson's did all this experimentation with water skippers. Check it out.
Right. Right.
Stop being a dick.
But also,
Anyway.
I mean, you also favor that the group selection because it directly plays into your definition of morality.
Well, it's really my definition of morality is a play on, oh, now I can't remember his name. The sociologist, Emil Durkheim. Emil Durkheim's definition of a religion. My definition is just kind of his definition simplified. So,
Right. Okay.
so Emil Durkheim is the father of sociology. He's the big cheese, like first started studying all this. So, and he defines religion as basically, well, my definition is a set of rules that binds individuals into a cooperative community. He defines a religion as like a set of practices and behaviors and symbols and values that bind all of them who adhere to it into some sort of community.
Right.
That is called a church or something to that effect. So, yes.
Okay. So let's start jumping into this.
In the world, you more or less blame Cain for, and this is Cain. I mean, you don't believe Cain actually existed, I presume.
Since I joined forces with
Good.
So the question is just, so he's talking about how in Jordan Peterson's new book, a lot of it is about Cain and Abel. And so the question is, do you think Cain actually existed?
And look, Jordan, basically, Richard Dawkins accuses Peterson of being obsessed with Cain. Like he's completely mean about it. Like he's kicking Jordan Peterson in the teeth here. And Jordan Peterson does a masterful job of responding very nicely. Like keeping
Jordan
it
Peterson's
civil.
very nice this entire conversation. Never loses his cool or anything. So
yeah.
develop a vision for your own life. You need to do that.
Oh wait, where's the?
Yeah, what's going on?
Okay,
here we go.
Day. Well, I think of Cain as
Do you believe Cain existed?
Who's that Paul McCartney lookalike? What's going on there?
Alex O'Connor.
I think the pattern that Cain represents is an eternal pattern. And so
yes,
it's a higher level of existence.
That's different. I realize
well,
that.
there are Cain types who exist, and they're
there are Cain types.
Yeah,
But Cain himself, I mean, you get...
Yeah. I mean, it's just so hilarious. He's so condescending.
Give the game away where you say in your book, Cain and Abel were the first humans to be born in the natural way. Now that betrays you as it were pretending you think they really existed, because you wouldn't have said they were born in a natural way unless you were muddling up facts with symbols there, because you don't think that Cain and Abel existed.
Well, I don't. What do I think about Cain and Abel? I said, I think the pattern that they represent always exists. Always exists.
You understand that that's a different thing.
Why is it a different matter? A pattern that they represent, the conflict between brothers, the rivalry between brothers. This is a fundamental pattern, which yes, it's something that's there. But I care about facts. I mean, did they exist or did they not exist?
Well, I can imagine a situation where when the story was originated, that it referred to two actual brothers. But as the stories propagate across time, as they mutate, as they adapt, let's say, to the structure of human memory, they deepen and they become broader. And so then they become emblematic not only of the pattern of conflict that might characterize the original two brothers that the story was about, but about the conflict between brothers as such, and then the more fundamental levels of conflict that exist within human beings, which is what you see in more sophisticated literature. It's like the biblical accounts speak of fact in a factual manner upon occasion, but the biblical accounts also speak poetically and metaphorically and allegorically, and people who are sophisticated in biblical analysis have known this for centuries. The biblical...
So...
he's fucking with him so hard.
Well, I think that I think this is actually a good answer. Okay. So the answer that he gave, just to kind of simplify it, is he said, well, I could see that the original story is based off of some actual real thing. And then over the years, as the story gets passed down and kind of reiterated through the various tribes or the various tellings, it sort of evolves into this mythological version of the story that encompasses all these important archetypes or archetypical ideas that humans should understand in order to, live happy lives or whatever, right?
Yeah, it's brilliant because he gives to the people who want it to be factually true, because he's like, yeah, it's based on a real person at one time, right? But then
Right.
it evolves this mythical proportion.
So, but if you hear that answer, that should tell you, well, then obviously he's not a biblical literist. He doesn't believe the Bible is literally real. Like that's the answer. Because he's saying maybe it was based on something, but then it changed over time to become more important. It's like Jordan Peterson's actually, it's interesting because the answer itself, he's saying that if it was something literal, it would be less important. It's the fact that it's been passed down and shaped to match the human psyche is what makes it more important, which makes it more kind of divine in Jordan Peterson's idea of divinity.
Yeah, it's just a clash of worldviews, though, because they want to critique the Bible in the same way a biblical literalist critiques it. Like, all of these events happened in this chronological way on this time scale, and that's that.
Mm-hmm.
And they're basically saying, the anti-theists are basically saying, that's not true. That didn't happen. That's factually incorrect.
Right.
But then Jordan Peterson throws this monkey wrench in because he says, well, look, there probably was something that lived, but he messes with the time scale.
Well, he doesn't really, because even if you say, well, maybe the story was originally based on something, that doesn't,
Right.
that's not really a good defense for biblical literacy.
No.
Right.
No,
so
it's not.
Now, this is just my interpretation. We're going to watch more clips of this. This is just my interpretation of what's going on here. I could be completely wrong because I'm just trying to understand it, which is, well, I guess there's two things. Number one, it's possible that there is just some way to conceptualize truth and objective reality that Jordan Peterson is just so dedicated to that's unclear to me and unclear to most people, which is possible. Or the way I interpret this from both sides here is that Jordan Peterson very obviously doesn't believe the Bible is literally true. I think everyone knows that. But he doesn't want to just say it super directly because he doesn't want to annoy the very religious people in his audience who follow him, who listen to his biblical series, who do believe it's very literally true. And he doesn't want to disenfranchise them. And that Dawkins and the other people know that. And so it just feels like they're just continually trying to get him to say something to annoy his own audience, even though everyone in the conversation knows he's not a biblical literist. Like, that's how I interpret these conversations.
You think Jordan Peterson is using strategic ambiguity and the anti-theists are trying to make it crystal clear? Like, take that tool away from him.
Yes, yes, exactly. He's using strategic ambiguity, and but it's not even like they're trying to take it away from him. Because again, I think to anyone who's listened to Jordan Peterson, it should be fairly obvious he doesn't believe in a literal interpretation of the Bible. So it just feels more like, it feels like pointless. It feels like it's just sort of we just want to, here's how I think what's going on here. The anti-theists hate Christianity. They hate religion. They think it's a net negative for society. They think society would be better.
That's
if everyone,
their religion, ironically.
Right, exactly, right. They think everyone would be better if they got rid of religion, if they got rid of Christianity, or whatever religion. I guess that includes Judaism and Islam too. And they are mad because then Jordan Peterson comes along here and suddenly he kind of revitalizes interest in the biblical stories by interpreting them in this like very fascinating way that most people have never heard of before. And he's able to talk about them in a very compelling way that no one's ever heard of before. So and this could all be happening subconsciously, by the way. So they're trying to they don't like that. that's pushing things they feel like in a negative direction back towards religion. So in an attempt to sort of weaken Jordan Peterson's ability to promote religion, they want to just keep hammering him on the fact that he's, quote, not a true believer, because they feel like that will weaken his ability to push Christianity or Judaism.
Yeah, I think that's going on. There is a little bit of a turf war going on because he frames all of his arguments in evolutionary terms, the same as the anti-theists do. So, and that is over the, is religion an adaptation or
Right.
vestigial,
Right.
which they have had that. They have had that debate, but they had that debate with a bunch of biblical literalists who weren't really qualified to have that debate. Jordan Peterson is definitely qualified to have that debate. So,
Right.
and it would be a much more interesting debate than this game that they're playing, which I 1,000% agree with you that it's really just trying to destroy Jordan Peterson's reputation with his audience. Yeah, which I look, I don't get it, because the thing that the anti-theists were upset about was that the Christians didn't want evolution taught in school, right? They wanted like creationism taught, and that really offended their sensibilities. I agree with them. I'm a truth seeker. So, but if Jordan Peterson is smuggling in evolution to the religious people, isn't that better than the religious people smuggling Jesus into evolution?
Maybe.
like that's constantly what they're worried about. They're worried about Jordan Peterson because he's going to smuggle Jesus in. And I'm like, no, you don't really understand Jordan Peterson's project. The reason why so many people like Jordan Peterson is because they were raised with a scientific materialist perspective, and Jordan Peterson explains religion from that perspective. Yeah. So it just makes sense.
At the time when somebody says, but did Cain and Abel really exist? And I know that you want to say that the story which
I think it's a silly question. I think it's like asking whether Raskolnikov existed in Crime and Punishment. Like, it's not a trivial question, because you can answer yes and you can answer no. You can say, well, there was no such specific person as Raskolnikov. But it's not a helpful question, because the reason that Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment is a masterpiece is because Raskolnikov was everywhere in Russia when Dostoevsky wrote Crime and Punishment. And so Raskolnikov is hyper-real, not real.
But to be clear, is that how you feel about Cain and Abel? That is to say, an identifiable
hyper-real
Homo sapiens called Cain,
it's irrelevant.
who murders his brother.
In a sense, it's irrelevant to me, because even if they were...
The more interesting question is Cain and Abel everywhere? And I'd say the answer is yes. Well, definitely.
I agree. I partially agree with what Dream Pierce saying. I partially disagree. I agree with I like the concept of the hyper real. It's an interesting concept.
Right.
And I can agree with it in terms of the importance of a story. Now, I don't remember exactly Jordan Peterson's Cain and Abel take. I heard it once. So I don't remember exactly enough to comment on whether I agree with the Cain and Abel take. But I agree with the concept of the hyperreal and seeing, how stories match these important metaphors or archetypes that we see everywhere that we use to sort of, guide ourselves in our lives and all that stuff. Where I disagree with him is that it is important, I believe, it is important when you're talking about religion to acknowledge or talk about whether the religious figures or the actions in the text are literally true or not. It's important because there's a chunk of society that's promoting said religion on the basis of it being literally true. And so because that's going on, you do kind of have to address that question. You can't just say, well, I don't care. I mean, I guess you could say, well, okay, that's good for you. You don't care. But this big chunk of the people that follow religion do care and are saying it literally happened.
Do you think they would abandon the religion if there was uncontrovertible evidence that it wasn't true, that it wasn't factually true?
Yes, I think a lot of people would.
Interesting.
Do you disagree?
I don't know. I'm not sure. It's hard for me to imagine people changing that easily. Like, it's so difficult to convince somebody. I guess the in the hypothetical though, they are convinced of it just magically. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, just obviously, this is pure speculation. I don't know if, like, I don't think the majority, I don't know how many Christians or Jews literally believe the Bible is true in the first place.
Right.
I would imagine, I'm guessing the majority don't believe it's literally true. At least I mean, I'm sure, I assume if you're Christian, you believe that Jesus really existed, right? But I don't know if you believe
Yeah,
every
certain
single
aspects
part.
of it.
Right. Like, I don't know if you believe Jonah really got swallowed by a whale and, all that stuff.
What?
Yeah, right. But, like, so, but if, so I guess it would depend when you ask me that question. I guess it would depend on, like, what the story is. Like, if there was somehow, and I don't know how you could, but just say there's some incontrovertible truth or proof, I should say, evidence that Jesus never existed, like, as a real person, and that it was sort of like a metaphor. I do think that not everyone, I think there'd still be a lot of people, maybe the majority of people will still be Christian, but I do think a lot of people, a big chunk of people would stop following the religion.
Yeah, the real question is, could you convince people that it wasn't true? That would be the tall order. That's probably impossible.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure, but that's its own thing. So
If Jordan Peterson came out and said, "Oh yeah, it's all fiction," would people believe it? Or would people, like,
well, I mean,
have
I don't think
cognitive
I don't think he would.
dissonance
I don't think he would convince any. I don't think Jordan Peterson has the capacity to convince anyone or the other.
No.
I think he's just trying to, he knows that like, he has this appeal to a very religious people, and maybe just doesn't want to upset them.
No, I agree. Look, and it is, it's more powerful if it's literally true. Like, that's just intuitive. I think it is
Yes.
far more powerful if it's a true story. So, and this plays on that.
So
I
here's
mean,
interesting.
obviously, the whole Jesus passion story has to be literally true for the deal to be active, right? For the exchange to take place. The whole idea behind Jesus is he died for your sins and you get into heaven because of that. If that didn't actually happen,
Right.
then what's going on, right?
Yeah, I would. That's why I said I would assume parts of it, if you're Christian, you have to accept are true or literally
Right.
true, right? But not
Yes.
everything. Yes.
Yeah.
And you're right about, yes, that Jesus died for your sin. So I looked up, it's a Gallup poll. This is from 2022. It says, of adults in America who identify as Christians, the majority, 58%, say the Bible is inspired by the word of God, but not everything is to be taken literally. So that's what I would have anticipated.
Right.
25% of Christians say that the Bible should be interpreted literally, and 16% of adults identifying as Christians say that it's an ancient book of fables.
Oh,
So there you
wow.
go. So there are the three.
So, but
options.
he's catering to the 25%. So,
well, he's catering to everyone without trying to disenfranchise anyone.
right, without trying to disenfranchise the 25%. That specific 25%, I think, is the
right.
Like, if he wasn't as careful with his language here, they would be the only ones who would be disgruntled about this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
And they would be disgruntled, man. They would be really disgruntled.
Okay, let me jump ahead here. Now, this is kind of interesting because if you recall, there was this time where Richard Dawkins made this comment about identifying as a cultural Christian.
Right, which he's gotten a lot of blowback for.
Right, which many people were kind of confused or interested by since he's such a prominent anti-theist. So Jordan Peterson asked him about this.
Conversations figure this out, but what did you mean by that? Like, what do you think that Christianity got right that would enable you to make a statement like that?
Virtually nothing. I meant by that no more than that I'm brought up in a Christian culture. I went to Christian schools. I therefore know my way around the Bible. I know my way around the Book of Common Prayer. I know the hymns. That's all. I don't value Christianity as a truth system at all.
Okay, so let me ask you about that, because
So is that how do you feel about that answer? Seems like
I
kind of
mean, I think it's honest. I think that's how he honestly feels. But I mean, I disagree with him on not valuing Christianity as a true system because, like, we always talk about forgiveness. Like,
right.
do you think it's good as a culture to embrace forgiveness or an eye for an eye?
Well, but see, when you say that you're a cultural Christian, and I feel like when other people say it, what they mean is something very different. They mean kind of what you're saying, that there is some good aspect of Christianity, some morally good aspect of Christianity that it is useful or beneficial that society has this embedded within its culture. And he just said very explicitly that he doesn't think there's anything good that comes
Right.
from
Yeah.
Christianity at all. And all
That's a
he
good
means
point.
by
Yeah.
it is that he just likes the holidays or the Christmas carols or something. So,
Look, it drives me it drives me crazy that atheists or anti-theists can't seem to understand that a person that believes that they will literally be tortured if they do wrong things to others is not motivated not to do wrong things to others. Like,
mhm,
just someone who doesn't believe that doesn't have that emotional shackle on them, right?
mhm,
That's just so obvious, right? Like,
right.
how do they not understand that? So I don't know. It's weird.
Well, it's interesting. So I found his original quote about this.
Hmm.
So he says, Dawkins says, quote, well, I must say I was slightly horrified to hear that Ramadan is being promoted instead. I guess instead of some Christmas thing. I do think we are culturally a Christian country. I call myself a cultural Christian. I'm not a believer, but there's a distinction between being a believing Christian and being a cultural Christian. And so, I love hymns and Christmas carols and sort of feel at home in the Christian ethos. I feel that we are a Christian country in that sense. It's true that statistically the number of people who actually believe in Christianity is going down, and I'm happy with that. But I would not be happy if, for example, we lost all our cathedrals and our other beautiful parish churches. So I count myself a cultural Christian. I think it would matter if we substituted any alternate religion, that would be truly dreadful, which brings me to the supplemental point, which is that we are no church attendance is plummeting, but the erecting of mosques across Europe, I think 6,000 are under construction. There are many more, are being planned. So do you regard that as a problem? Do you think that matters? Oh, that's what the
Right.
journalist says. And he says, yes, I do. I really do. I might have to choose my words carefully. If I had to choose between Christianity and Islam, I choose Christianity every single time. It seems to me to be a fundamentally decent religion in a way I think Islam is not.
Okay, so he contradicted himself a little bit there.
A little bit, yeah, he
He
did.
says a fundamentally decent religion, but then to Jordan Peterson he says, no, nothing. It sucks.
Right. So that's the question. Yeah. What does he mean by fundamentally decent versus Islam being not?
Right. Look,
Then,
Christianity creates high trust societies too. There's all kinds of different ways you can look at this problem.
right. Well, I guess you could take the easy answer, would be, well, if you look at, through the arrow of history here, Christianity has created first world liberal democracies
Mm-hmm.
where Islam hasn't really accomplished that. So is that because of religion? Is it because of something different? Is it a guns, germs, and steel thing and it's a coincidence? Who knows? But you could use a kind of correlative argument if you wanted to. So,
Right.
so then the host asks him, says, "I think you're going to have to explain why you said that, Professor Dawkins. Why is Islam fundamentally not decent like Christianity?" Then he
Ooh, she's got
responds,
him. She knows it.
"Yes."
I got
He
the clip.
says, He says, yes, the way women are treated. Christianity is not great about that. It's had its problems, female vicars and female bishops and things, but there's an active hostility to women, which is promoted, I think, by the holy books of Islam. I'm not talking about individuals, Muslims, who, of course, are quite different, but the doctrines of Islam, the Hadiths, and the Quran is fundamentally hostile to women, hostile to gays. And I find that I like to live in a culturally Christian country, although I do not believe a single word of the Christian faith.
Right.
So yeah, it does feel like it's sort of, I don't know. It feels like he's kind of on the edges of something deeper about it, but he doesn't feel comfortable because he's like the very famous atheist guy to kind of embrace something, something about there being a culturally beneficial aspect to Christianity.
Right. He said too much. Like, he's said that religion is a vestigial thing that we just need to get rid of. So, I mean,
Right.
he would have to reverse himself on his entire ideology.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to do it, but
No.
he should,
Okay, here, let me
because
jump
he's
ahead.
wrong.
Right.
according to a particular pattern. And there are patterns that seem to work and to propagate themselves multiple disciplines, because we have to prioritize. And so that's a remarkable thing. That's a remarkable discovery, and it's emerged probably in the last 60 years in multiple disciplines, because we have to prioritize our facts. And so we prioritize them according to a particular pattern. And there are patterns that seem to work and to propagate themselves properly and to orient cultures towards life abundant. And there are other patterns, the pattern of Cain, for example, that lead to absolute bloody devastation. And I don't know exactly how to construe that sort of truth, but we talked about the oppression of women, for example. It's like, how do you make a case on purely factual grounds that women should be treated as equals?
It's a moral question, and
I know that's exactly.
And I was dealing with a factual question, which is, did Jesus have a father? And you won't answer it.
Well,
It's a
Jesus
different
had an
kind of
earthly
question.
father and a heavenly father, like almost all mythological heroes.
So he
That's
wasn't born of a virgin then? So you're saying that Jesus was not born of a virgin?
I said, first of all, that I don't know how to mediate the fact.
I mean, the story's better if he's born of a virgin. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
You're right.
It makes it more heroic.
Value dichotomy in that case. I said the same thing about the resurrection.
It's not a value. It's a simple fact. I mean, did a man have intercourse with Mary and produce Jesus? That's a factual question. It's not a value question.
You must understand what you're being asked here, that even if you think that, say, the author of the biblical texts intended much more significance than a simple scientific analysis of events, Professor Dawkins is interested in scientific truth. That's the kind of truth that he's interested in. And even if you think it's irrelevant to the point of what the gospel authors were getting at, that first needs to be clarified before you can then begin actually uncovering what the stories are about. So I think Professor Dawkins is asking from a scientific perspective, and maybe you think that that scientific approach is wrong, but if you just take it for a moment, maybe this is how we find out that it is wrong. Let's take a scientific approach, ask the question, did this occur?
I think that it's inappropriate to use a question like that to attempt to undermine the validity of the entire, what would you say, deep mythological enterprise.
Well, suppose we weren't doing that. Suppose we were asking out of interest. Suppose that we were all here devout Christians.
See, and I think that's what is happening here, right?
Totally.
That's 100% the underlying thing that's happening in the conversation. And it's, I mean, I would guess, now I can make some mind reading, I can make some assumptions here, which is that Jordan Peterson understands, as you said, that if the story is supposed to be true, if you're supposed to truly believe it's a literal story, or at least aspects of it are literal, right? Because, you know, most people think that some parts of it are probably true and some parts of it are not exactly true, or not literal, I should say. If you start parsing out what is all the literal parts, what is all the non-literal parts, right? The story has a lot more psychological, emotional, moral power to the average person if they believe it is true, or if there's some ambiguity about whether it's exactly literally true or not. Most people are not going to be that heavily persuaded. They could be, but this is kind of the problem that I think Sam Harris and a lot of other people have when they try to construct their atheist moral framework for society, is that I'm skeptical that works for the majority of people. I think the majority of people do need, you know, whether you're, you know, for whatever reason, do need to have this sort of belief that it's tied to something divine, spiritual, something of that nature.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, Jordan Peterson, I think, is very aware of this. And so it does feel like all this stuff is just to try to undermine that process, or to specifically just undermine Jordan Peterson's credibility existing in any sort of religious community where he does his biblical talks.
Well, they want to undermine anybody anybody with any sort of religious influence, they want to undermine their credibility. But
Right.
Jordan Peterson is a particularly interesting personality for them because they can't seem to figure out why Jordan Peterson has sway, and people like you and I, who are, you know, scientifically minded people,
Mm-hmm.
give him any credence at all. Like, we're remotely interested in the things that he's saying. That baffles them.
Right. Right. Well, I believe that Jordan, from all the Jordan Peterson stuff I've heard, I don't know if he's ever addressed this. From all the Jordan Peterson stuff I've ever heard, you know, he obviously does believe in God. He obviously does not believe the Bible was literally true, but he does believe in God. He's talked about like weird spiritual things that have happened to him. You know, I remember he told that
did,
story
yeah.
about the bird in the trunk.
And he never
That-
looked in the trunk. What a fuck.
He never looked in the trunk or whatever. Yeah, it wasn't a bird. He never looked in the trunk to see what was in the trunk. I forget the exact context of the story. There was some weird knocking in the inside of the trunk. He never looked. But so I do think he 100% believes in God, and I could believe that Jordan Peterson has this belief system. And it sounds like this is what his belief system is that that the Bible is divinely inspired because humans have within them some aspect of God or some aspect of divinity. And it's like through the sort of evolutionary process of storytelling, of kind of reproducing the same biblical stories through generation, that humans have been able to sort of sand down the stories till you reach the divine core that exists within the archetypical imagination or archetypical collective unconscious of all people or something. Like that's how I think Jordan Peterson views the Bible and kind of views these spiritual situations. But
I mean, you're describing it in sort of a kind of a religious tone that I don't
Right.
think is necessary. Like, and I don't
well, it's
think,
not necessary, but I think that's what Jordan Peterson believes.
well, no, I think Jordan Peterson believes it in the sterile scientific
I
way
don't.
as well.
I don't.
No, I think, look, the sort of saying the same thing, but just saying it in more of a clinical way, is that the stories evolve because people adopt them and behave, you know, use them as archetypes for behavior, and they modify them in ways that they feel are improvements, right? And those societies thrive or die out. And then the ones that thrive carry the story forward and change it in ways that they think are more, I mean, it's the same exact thing as technology, right? It's a moral technology. It's a behavioral technology. So there's nothing spiritual about it that's going on. It's just, it's survivor's bias. It's the same exact thing that, I mean, both the anti-theists believe in. Dawkins believes in. Connor believes in. They believe this is how the books evolved, but they think they evolved just to entertain people. They don't realize that they're
or control people.
Yeah, exactly. Well, look, controlling people is what makes society work. It literally does. So, I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? The stories were the least expensive form of law enforcement, right? Like if you have to hire police to keep people in line, it's much more expensive than if you just have everyone believe in God and are in line, you know, keep themselves in line because they're worried about some eternal suffering after they die, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
so look, they think it's
yeah.
manipulative, but
Right.
so it is manipulative.
Well, they're looking at it when I say control, you know, what they mean is that there's some kind of top-down control in order to oppress people, not
it's very
not
bottom
controlling
up,
them for positive social cohesion or something. So
right. Okay. Yeah. That's a good distinction.
But but I agree with what you're saying in terms of like how Jordan Peterson or someone could conceptualize it in terms of the survivor's bias of, you know, the stories that are useful because they seem to create societies that are productive and survive and thrive get passed on, and the ones that produce failing societies don't. I agree with all that, and I agree Jordan Peterson would look at all that way. But I would wager that Jordan Peterson would argue, or at least feel, that there's some strain, there's some energy of divinity that exists in the sort of positive, socially cohesive stories that gets passed down, that humans are trying to like work their way back to figuring out what is divine through this process. I think that's because Jordan Peterson does not, I don't think he's an atheist at all.
I disagree in that I think he would just label the process as divine, but conceptualized it exactly the same way.
Why do you think that?
I go back to that, his descriptions of God that he laid out in his talk with Sam Harris. I think it was the third talk that he did with Sam Harris. And all of the descriptions, if you go back and listen to them, they basically conceptualize God as what I am talking about. Just this process. Like I think, it's been a long time since I watched that, but one of my think was, God is that which selects, which it's like, okay, you're just saying that whatever it is out there, the environment that's selecting this, you're conceptualizing that as God, right? But me as a, atheist materialist, I would just call that the environment, right? The environment changes. The environment is that which selects, is it not?
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. But see, because like when Jordan Peterson is asked about this God question, he usually frames it somewhat confusingly, but he frames it around this idea that like God is the highest value in which you
in the hierarchy
act.
of values. That's one of them too.
Right. That you act as a human in your life.
Look, and he's zeroing in, even in this conversation, on the sacrifice thing, which I think is important.
Right. But okay, so remember, I'm not going to bring this up in the context of the inside-outside thing, but do you remember that I said I had this two conceptions of how people who are morally on the left view the Garden of Eden story and people that are morally on the right view it. And that's that people on the left view it like, this is my theory here. It's that people who have left-wing moral intuitions, if they're Adam and Eve and they get kicked out of the garden, their intuition is God was in the wrong for creating unfair rules, for creating an unfair situation about a tree with no explanation, for putting a serpent there that was going to trick us because God's omnipotent, right? God's going to know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
God put the serpent there. God didn't explain clearly why we're not supposed to be from the tree, et cetera, et cetera. It's God's fault. I'm mad at God. I'm going to go off. Adam and Eve are going to go off. We're going to go off and we're going to try to create our new utopia. We're going to try to create something new, kind of in an essence, build towards a new God, right? Build towards a new God, build towards a new utopia. Okay. I think that's kind of the left-wing intuition. Then the right-wing intuition is sort of the opposite, is to say, okay, God was correct. My parent was correct. It was my fault or Eve's fault or the serpent's fault for, tricking me or for falling prey to doing this, to giving in, to not following the rules. So even though that I've now been expelled from the garden, I must now atone and figure out a way to atone enough, deconstruct enough or atone enough, go back enough so that I can be holy again to rejoin God back in. Yeah, re-enter the garden, go back to God.
This is great.
And this is sort of the right-wing conception of the Garden of Eden. Also, this kind of maps onto sort of like viewing God as like your parent in terms of like parental disputes when they have favored children and things of that nature. But anyway.
Touches on the tradition versus change thing too. It's great. Right. It's great.
And so kind of using that framework of the left has this idea of like building a new God, working towards building a new God, and the right has this idea of atoning to regain God or to regain one's presence with God. And the interesting thing here, I see with Jordan Peterson, is I think he's sort of being the masterful enlightened centrist in that he's kind of bridging these two concepts by saying, well, there was this, in this kind of, in Christianity and Judaism through the Bible, in these stories, there's this eternal divine truth, which would appeal to the right, like back in the day. But at the same time, the process that uncovers that divine truth is the continually passing down of new stories, the continually shaping and creating of these new stories, kind of like the process you were saying. Like
that is great. Yeah.
The things that thrive. And so on one hand, it's like Jordan Peterson is kind of connecting the bridge between the left and right conception of God, saying you're both correct. You're both humans. There was something originally that you're atoning to try to get back to, but humans are creating the pathway to get there in the future. and
Right.
continually in the present as well.
Yeah, and it's saying that we can constantly create new stories, which is going to be appealing to the left's intuition of change, and those stories all have some archetypal center to them that are the same, which is going to appeal to the right's tradition.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah, no, that's super interesting.
Christians, maybe even Jungian Christians, and we thought, this is interesting, over dinner, do you think it really happened, like scientifically? Would your answer just be, I don't know?
Yes.
And you wouldn't consider it, I mean, it's not an inappropriate question to ask, just on a point of interest.
Right.
Did this really occur? And I think so often people are asking you that, and especially given the context of this conversation, we've heard everything that you're saying about metaphor and myth, but because the question is still then being asked, did it really happen? You know that that's what you're being asked. And the way you just so easily said yes, I wonder why you struggle to do that in so many other circumstances.
I think because I don't look at the situation the same. The way that Dr. Dawkins and I look at the situation are really quite different, and at many, many, many levels. You know, so even on the meme question, for example, you know, like, I know the literature on the history of religious ideas. I see how these ideas have battled across millennia in a manner that is very reminiscent to me of the same sort of claim that Dr. Dawkins is putting forward with regards to meme. I know that literature. Dr. Dawkins doesn't know that literature. And it's very difficult for me to communicate from within the confines of that literature because it's extensive and deep. And we're dealing with things that we don't understand the relationship between metaphoric truth and value predicated truth and factual truth. We don't understand that. It's a big problem. We cannot, there's no evidence whatsoever from the scientific perspective that we can orient ourselves in the world merely in consequence of the facts.
Sure.
And that's a fact. And it's a fact that's been detailed out in great detail in the last 60 years by people from a variety of different disciplines. We have to prioritize the facts. That's a value hierarchy. There may be true and false ways of prioritizing facts, but you can't determine the truth or falsehood of the way that you prioritize facts by making reference to the facts. That's a big problem.
Okay, let's talk about.
So essentially what he's saying is that just having an awareness or understanding of what is objectively true isn't enough, or even maybe even the primary useful thing that a person should have or could have in reality, because you first have to have this sort of hierarchy of values, a hierarchical understanding of how you want to understand the world, and that has to come from some sort of moral presupposition that you have to be operating with first before you can even engage with what is an objective fact. That's Jordan Peterson's argument.
Well, I think he's making the argument that there's a hierarchy between factual statements and narrative statements, and the disagreement is over which take precedent. The atheists believe that the facts are most important, and Jordan Peterson believes the narratives are most important.
Right, but what? Yeah, but
So
he's
I think
saying
that discrepancy exists.
But,
yeah.
Yes, but he's saying the reason for that is because there has to be, Jordan Peterson's arguing, there has to be some axiomatic belief that's going to be based on some moral question before you can even do anything else, before you can think about anything else. That's why he's saying, like, in order to even think that objective facts matter, you have to have a moral belief that objective facts matter.
Yeah, that would be the narrative portion of it.
Right.
I completely agree with what you're saying. I do think every single person operates in the world placing one of the narrative or the facts higher. They just are not really conscious of it.
Right.
This whole conflict, I think, makes people more aware of that discrepancy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was looking there because I did a meme of this, because I did a response video when Jordan Peterson talked to Sam Harris about this. And it's funny, who was the guy that came on and did Enlightened Centers did the meme song out of him? God, that guy was so crazy, but he did this crazy video where he outlined this conflict between the narratives and the factual statements pretty well.
You're not talking about one species.
One Species, yeah, exactly. One Species did a fucking amazing video of this, and I like the video a lot because it kind of mirrored the same conclusions that I came to on the video.
Mm-hmm.
So it really is a conflict, and the atheists will say that the facts are what gives credibility to the narratives, but the Jordan Peterson will argue that it's the narratives that give credibility to the facts, which is just, I mean, they're fundamentally opposite positions. So, and that's like the subtext of all of these various conversations, even this conversation where they're arguing about, but look, you realize this is factual, right? And he's saying, well, really the narrative is more important, isn't it? Like, isn't that where the truth is? The narrative? Like you basically want to say, look, if we can't build our narrative on factual statements, then the narrative has no value. And Jordan Peterson wants to say, well, if we can't, build our facts around narratives that are true, then we don't have a society that's structurally useful. So that's the conflict between the two.
That as perhaps a slight detour here, because I think we do need to come back to this Christ resurrection thing. But Professor Dawkins, would you say that underlying the scientific enterprise is a fundamentally unscientific assumption? You can make scientific investigations in the world, but in order to do so, you need to choose what to prioritize. You need to choose what to investigate. You also need to value the truth. You need to have a value and a motivation for doing it in the first place. Those kinds of things cannot themselves be scientifically justified. And so does the scientific enterprise have an unscientific assumption into space?
I suppose it does. I mean, I think that maybe just be Jordan and Richard, by the way. I think that Jordan prioritizes myth and I prioritize fact. And
see, I would just change that to Jordan prioritizes narrative and Dawkins prioritizes fact. Yeah.
Right.
But he views the narrative as myth, which, I mean, I guess it is to some extent, right?
Well, should we say metaphorical truth versus objective truth?
Yeah, look, and this is what's great about Brett, because Brett kind of just lays it out, right? Myth implies something that that is, like, I guess maybe myth is neutral. It doesn't feel neutral in this kind of context. But I mean, there are archetypes of how to live, behavior, right? And some of those archetypes will be useful and some will not. Like, I would argue that the archetype the Nazis put forward was not a useful archetype, right, for behavior. Right. So if you're not, you have to admit that.
I think myth is kind of vaguely interesting, but it's not the be all and end all of my life. I think it's somewhat secondary to scientific fact, the sort of facts that tell us how old the universe is, how old the world is, the history of life, the engineering achievements of landing a spacecraft on a comet. These are the things that science can do. And as I said, the predictions of quantum theory, to come back to that, the predictions of quantum theory, which are verified to a sufficient number of decimal places that it's equivalent to predicting the width of North America to 1 hair's breadth. Now, that is, however difficult quantum theory is to understand, that is what you can get from quantum theory. Now, the mysteries of the Bible, if they are mysteries, aren't in the same league. I mean, they just don't cut it.
So look, it's interesting because his life is held together by this narrative that factually understanding the natural world is something every human being should strive for. Like, that's his mission. So, I mean, he is bound by a narrative.
Right.
So you want to continue?
There is, there was a part earlier in the conversation where he says very directly, Jordan Peterson's talking about how the idea of sacrifice.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Jordan Peterson talks about how, like, the important, well, I guess I should say, okay, let me start over. Richard Dawkins says that there's not anything important or useful from the Bible that can't be gleaned really, or that was not gleaned from another source, at least originally. it's very funny because like it's very apparent that Dawkins has this like very utter contempt for the Bible and anything related to the Bible. And he seems like he's kind of offended by the process of Jordan Peterson extracting wisdom from the Bible at all.
Yeah.
It's like an offensive, like it's a morally offensive thing to Richard Dawkins. And Jordan Peterson talks about this whole concept of sacrifice, where the Bible really lays out how sacrifice is like this, sacrifice putting off, your short-term pleasure for a long-term gain and putting aside your own pleasure for the good of society are the two core components that make any society function at all completely. And he kind of thinks that the Bible's really about this concept of sacrifice.
Yeah,
and
I
it's
agree.
and it's funny because that's what I thought of you, because like, this is sort of one of the big problems that you have with objectivism, is that, objectivism seems to be completely counter to this concept of morality being making sacrifices for other people and for other members of society and for your family.
Right.
See,
True.
well, okay. So let me respond to that. So one of the things that I've tried to study is the preconditions for the scientific enterprise itself. You appeared to agree with Alex that there might be presumptions, axioms that need to be accepted. I don't want to put words in your mouth because I want to get this right before the scientific enterprise can begin. So I've tried to think those through. So let me lay out a couple of them. This is partly what I've done while trying to make the case, for example, that you're more of a Christian than you think you are. So, for example, I think that the scientific enterprise is motivated by the axiomatic presumption that truth tends towards a unity. I think that it's predicated on the notion that there is a logical order that's intrinsic to the cosmos, that fundamental order is good, that it's intelligible to human beings, and that discovering that order and aligning ourselves with it makes for life more abundant. I think that the scientific enterprise is also predicated on the idea that the truth will set you free. And I think all of those axioms are religious and derived from the Judeo-Christian tradition. And if you don't believe that, you have to account for why science emerged in Europe and nowhere else in the entire history of humanity, for example, and why it's under assault from like all quarters now as that underlying metaphysic disappears. Like you haven't had to be concerned with the mythological substrate in your lifetime in some sense because it was intact.
Yes.
And so the universities could flourish and you had your freedom, remarkable freedom to pursue your scientific enterprise wherever you wanted, and people lauded you for it. Like that time is threatened. And seriously so. And I think it's partly because these metaphysical assumptions have now become questionable, and that's part of the reason that I'm attending to them. It's not because I don't admire the accuracy of quantum prediction, for example, or celebrate what Musk is doing with his capability of sending rockets to Mars. It's like more power to the technological enterprise. But you know what's happening in the universities? It's awful. And that's not a scientific problem. It's okay.
I agree about that.
Okay.
I think it's an interesting question why science emerged in Europe. I mean, and I'm not enough of a historian to know. It is even possible that Christianity did have something to do with that, and I wouldn't categorically deny that. But that doesn't in any way increase my trust in the validity of Christian propositions like the resurrection, the virgin birth, the miracles, and Jesus is the Son of God. Christianity may have had some kind of historical facilitating effect that led to the Renaissance, that led to the scientific revolution, and that would be a very interesting historical analysis, but it doesn't bear upon the truth of the propositions of the Christian religion.
Okay, let's concentrate on the resurrection for a moment. Now, unfortunately, see, this is...
Okay, well, that's sort of, they just kind of go in circles, I think, from there. But
Okay.
that's kind of they both laying out their end points to the conversation. So.
It's fascinating stuff. I love it.
Yeah, no, but I would recommend everyone go watch the entire conversation. It's a very interesting conversation. I wish I wish, because I like Richard Dawkins a lot, but I wish that he wasn't so morally disgusted with religion so that he could engage somewhat in the conversation on a deeper level that I think would be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. He doesn't really engage.
No.
I wonder if they could. I mean, it would be too dicey for Jordan Peterson to just meet Dawkins where he is privately so that they could go deeper on the conversation. But look, Dawkins is not going to go any deeper on the conversation until Jordan Peterson says, Jesus didn't really live, right? Gives him what he wants.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, maybe. I am just somewhat curious as to where the conversation would go from there. Maybe I could speculate it would be, we can do all these things. Doctors make the argument that we could do all these things, have all these conversations, all these stories, all these morals just detached from Christianity.
Yeah, he might do that. I
Right.
disagree, obviously. I think maybe you disagree as well.
I
I'm
do.
not sure.
I think most people need, as I said, I think most people need to believe it's either true or believe there's some level of spiritual divinity to these things in order to dedicate, moral space to them. I think
Get
that's,
to
I mean,
motivate them.
right. I mean, I know it's true for me personally. I don't know. I don't know if I would be the person I am without my own religious, spiritual beliefs. I feel like I'd probably be different. So,
I reflect on that from time to time because I couldn't believe there's no way that I would be able to believe anymore. But I do not, like, I still have a strong ethical core just reflexively. Like I
right.
fucking hate to lie. Like I just do not want to lie. Like, even, even just about dumb shit, that just to not hurt people's feelings or whatever. It's like, I fucking hate that stuff. I hate it with a burning passion. And I think it's all reflexive. It's just reflexive because I was super religious when I was a younger kid, and I did buy into all this stuff. And my parents were religion, so I learned my morals in a religious context, a Christian context. And I think I've internalized it to the point where I just, obviously, that's the elephant that Haidt always talks about, right?
Right, but maybe you had to have the religion shoved into your elephant from the beginning in order for you to have those reflexes. And if you hadn't, you wouldn't have those reflexes.
Look, I think that's true. Yeah. And I think it's true of most people. I think most people can, maybe even Dawkins. Like Dawkins grew up. This is what's so fascinating to me because so many of these atheists, like they are disgruntled former Christians, right? They feel like their parents put this religion into them. But they'll turn around and they'll make this argument that, look, I've killed as many people as I want to. 0, right? I would never kill anyone. And I think, wow, is this person even human? I mean, no one? You've not wanted to kill anyone? And you read that book, The Murder Next Door by David M. Buss, and he just like goes through pretty much everyone. The people who don't fantasize about killing people are the exception. Like those are the weirdos. Most people do fantasize about killing people and regularly, right? So that's religion stepping in and kind of curbing their behavior. So I don't think the atheists really know what they're messing with when they start fucking around with this stuff. So
right.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think you can raise, and look, this might be some of the problems of the culture war that we're having, because I don't know how many of these people who are just, kind of egomaniac, self-absorbed, cancel culture, moralistic, like holier than thou, self-absorbed people are just had a secular upbringing, so they have no bounds whatsoever being placed on them ethically.
Right.
What do you think?
I agree.
Yeah. Interesting. So I guess we're gonna do some super chats and then
Yeah. Let me read the Streamlabs first.
I couldn't find the meme. I did a video on this a long time ago, and I go back and I watch that video every once in a while because
Mhm.
I was on my game. One of my scripted videos that I wrote out and everything is just those conversations that Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson had were pretty fascinating.
Right.
Are there any videos that you go back and watch your own, or you just shun them all?
Of my own?
Yeah.
No, I mean, no, not really.
This is the amazing thing about doing content creation, because it does force you to really sit down and think things through, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you get a better understanding.
Because I mean, usually, like when I would make videos back in the day, I would listen through the process of writing it and editing it, and recording it. I would have listened to the video like a jillion times.
Yeah, me too.
That by the time it was done, I never wanted to hear it again. So,
Right, but you've kind of almost memorized everything that you've learned.
right.
Yeah.
Right. That's true. Death by Sloth for Joe says, when Dawkins said science is what gets us to the moon, the question that Jordan P. Peterson needs to ask was, what are the evolutionary reasons that made humans want to get to the moon at all? And isn't that worth exploring?
Yeah,
That would
totally.
be interesting. Solid for $2 says, the vast majority of historians believe Jesus was a real person. The consensus, at least, is that he was baptized and crucified due to the criterion of the dissimilarity. Parentheses, they're potentially embarrassing, so they likely happened. Huh. Well, okay.
Are you? Did you start at the top?
Yeah, I was reading the Streamlabs backwards.
Oh, okay. You're reading Streamlabs. All right.
Solid for $2 says, one problem with the tariffs is that they can ironically make it more expensive to make goods in America. Some goods can be made in America with material or capital equipment imported from other countries and then exported. Yeah, there was
I don't know, we
did
were
I ever
going to
send it to
cover
you?
the tariff thing, and we did.
Yeah, maybe we will tomorrow or something.
Okay, let's do that. Yeah.
I don't know if I sent it to you. There was some. I know I did. I don't know if you watched it. There was a Fareed Zakari clip, and he makes this claim, kind of. It's the same thing you're talking about, Cello, where Trump basically put on some level of tariffs. I believe that was for like washing machines or something, right? And it ended up making it like more expensive for everyone, including the manufacturers of washing machines in America or something. Like it totally did. It like just completely didn't work in any capacity. So, but I don't know enough about the specifics or the economics to fully lay out the argument as to whether it would work or not, and what situations do they work or would they not work. So,
yeah, I am fascinated by the whole tariff situation, though.
Right. Okay, let me do the super chats here. Let me start with Dawkins stuff just because it's more fresh. Floki VT for $5 says, the fact Dawkins said he would never criticize Islam again, but Christianity's fair game tells me all I need to know about his overall stance. When did he say that? Because that quote I read about rather living in a Christian world or Christian country than an Islamic country was from last year, I believe, or this year actually. So, where did he say that?
Yeah, look, he got in trouble for criticizing Islam because he said he would rather live in a Christian country than an Islamic country, which is I don't know how you can take that other than a criticism of Islam. So
it was on, I think I found it. It was on a Pierce Morgan from last year. Huh. Interesting.
Dawkins is anti-woke. Like Dawkins is completely against all of the transgender stuff. He's completely against this whole sex as a spectrum. Like he's like, fuck you. I'm a biologist, bitch. Which I don't think, this is kind of a chink in his worldview, because he was thinking that, you know, if people just focus on the facts and abandon religion, then everything's going to be hunky dory. So But what he discovered is people got rid of religion, but they didn't focus on the facts. That's not what happened. They developed this new religion around gender, and gender's a spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It seems like he was saying some kind of comment. Maybe he was sort of afraid of being violently attacked or killed the way Salman Rushdie was. So I don't know if it was an ideological thing or a safety thing, but it's interesting. That's pretty sad if that's the case. If it was a safety thing.
Didn't they finally get Rushdie?
Yeah, he died. He was killed, wasn't he?
I don't think he was killed. I think he was stabbed.
Oh, and he was stabbed in the eye?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Right, that's
he
right.
Was assaulted brutally.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm sorry.
He's alive. Yeah, but he got he got stabbed in the eye. He lost sight in one eye or something. Yeah.
Fucked up.
Yep. Okay. Adam Unfriended for $20. Thanks so much. Says the debate between Jordan and Richard centers on mythical truth versus reality truth. The key issue is how reality truth becomes mythical truth and gets politically manipulated. We should focus on that.
How mythical yeah, well, that's what a lot of the atheists are. I mean, they view religion as a manipulation. So, but look, manipulation is that's kind of the bad way to say it. Kind of like indoctrination is the bad way to say educated. Like it really depends upon what you're learning. Like if the manipulation is manipulating people into not murdering one another, I mean, I'm down with that, right? I want that manipulation.
Enlightened Centrist, thanks so much. Enlightened Centrist for €2.49, or should I say €5? Says people always forget that Jordan Peterson believes in ghosts. I did forget that, yes. And also, Enlightened Centrist said, by the way, glad to see the Jordan Peterson Defense Force in action again.
Yeah, look, we got a Enlightened Centrist. This is the Enlightened Centrist who got a shout out earlier because he made a great song out of one species coming, one species coming on our show and being kind of insane. Look, and that I was completely unprepared for that because I did know one species as a Jordan Peterson fan.
Right.
Yeah. Which I was like, whoa, he did a complete 180. This is an interesting fact about YouTube that I guess people who watch know this, right? People like rebrand. They're like, I'm a Jordan Peterson fan, but now I'm going to rebrand as someone who hates Jordan Peterson and loves progressive politics, right? Yeah. I don't know if that was what was going on with one species, but it was definitely a radical change. So
it was, yeah. Cyberhunk returns for $5. Says, does pantheism resolve this debate between divine and environmental intervention?
I don't think so.
I'm not even sure I understand that question. I'm not sure I even understand what is pantheism?
Multiple gods? Pantheism is multiple gods, I believe.
Pantheism is a philosophical and religious belief that the universe, nature, and reality are the same as a supreme entity or divinity.
Oh, maybe it does then. That would fit with Jordan Peterson's conceptualization as I described it.
Maybe, because I'm looking on the little AI thing. It says, the Google AI thing says, here are some beliefs of pantheists. The earth is the most sacred order and should be treated with reverence, love, and protection. Like, okay, that makes sense. Pantheism is neither theistic or atheistic and does not involve a belief in supernatural powers, spirits, or deities. Because I feel like, I mean, again, I don't know enough about pantheism, but I feel like you could believe that the universe, nature, and reality is the same as God or some supreme entity and still have a belief in like a theistic belief in God or supernatural powers or something. Like, I don't see why those things would be at odds with each other. Pantheism is the doctrine that the universe conceived of as a whole is God, and conversely, that there is no God but the combined substance, forces, and laws that are manifested in the existing universe. Oh, okay, interesting. Huh.
We don't know all the descriptions.
I don't know. I don't know all these things, but it's interesting. JMac, our circuit fire, thanks so much. Dad JMac for the $100. Says it's pathetic and sad that Dawkins has safety threats for criticizing Islam, yet Christianity can have entire Broadway shows put on mocking it. Reminds me of the South Park controversy. They couldn't show Muhammad in a bear costume, but they can show Jesus snorting crack.
Yeah, look, I remember that.
Very true. And I guess, you know what? And maybe that's why Dawkins should have just said that's why he would prefer to live in a culturally Christian country than an Islamic one. So,
yeah, he should just come out and say it.
mm-hmm.
I don't know how we're going to deal with that problem. I mean, it is pathetic and sad. And how do you deal with that?
Right. Levy Miller for $10. I'm going to come back to the ones I was skipping. I'm just trying to do the Jordan Peterson ones first. Levy Miller for $10 says, when talking about whether Christmas should take Christians. Wait, you said whether Christmas. I assume you mean Christians.
Christians.
Whether Christmas should take the Bible literally, whether Christians should take the Bible literally or not, I think it'd be a good idea to ask an apologist, such as Inspiring Philosophy, what your pastor didn't tell you, etc. Sure.
I've done a couple live streams with Inspiring Philosophy, so I like Michael. He's a stand-up guy.
Nigel.
But I'm not familiar with this, what your pastor didn't tell you.
Nigel TRC72 for 10 pounds says the vast majority of Christians don't think Jesus was metaphorically resurrected. They literally think it happened. Was actually true is important to a huge number of people. Yeah, I would be interested in that poll, even though it said the majority of Christians believe that the entire Bible is not literal. I would assume that the majority of Christians do think that Jesus was a literal person who was literally resurrected and literally died for their sins. So I would assume that's the case.
Yes.
JMac or Circuit Fire for $20. Thanks so much, Dad. JMac says, okay, here's the truth that Dawkins and Peterson should really be discussing. Allied Atheist Alliance, Unified Atheist League, or United Atheist Alliance. Remember, there's only one correct choice. Yes. That was the episode of South Park where Cartman goes to the future by accident because he can't wait till, I don't know if it was when the Nintendo Wii was going to come out or something. So he puts himself in like cryo sleep and he wakes up too far in the future. And the entire future is composed of different atheist groups killing each other over trying to determine what the name of the group should be.
Right. Sounds like an atheist thing.
Yeah.
Dawkins famously came out and said atheists should call themselves brights.
That was
his
name.
pitch. Yeah.
That's a terrible name.
They should not be labeled atheists anymore. They should be called brights.
Because they're so smart. That's like,
I've met a lot of super dumb atheists in my day, so I don't know about the bright thing.
Fondue Fried Hours says, this is the part of the problem I have with the term useful fiction. The implication rights aren't real, makes them harder to defend, not less. You are correct. You are 100% correct, but that's just the way that that's the way that I and Adam see on an objective level the concept of natural rights.
Well, no, but you make an important point that I think we've made many times, that believing the useful fiction is actually literally true is helpful. And
yes, that's why it is a useful fiction. Yeah, that is what we mean when we say it's useful fiction.
Yeah.
So
I think, look, give us points. We're not calling it the rights delusion. Okay. We have some respect for the rights dialogue.
Yeah. That's, I mean, I would never, because I agree with that concept. So I don't really want to I wouldn't have a stream, going around making a bunch of videos trying to argue with people, demanding that they accept that natural rights are a useful fiction. Because I understand that kind of defeats the point of it being a useful fiction.
True. Yes. Yeah.
Brian for $15. Thank you. Says, I don't think Jordan Peterson doesn't want to say it's false because he doesn't want to alienate. It's because the stories are true at the meta level. And the answer of whether the story of Cain is literally true would be, I don't know. And more importantly, it doesn't matter whether we can prove that Cain story is 100% true.
Yeah, I totally agree with this.
Maybe, I don't know. I get a sense. I just get a sense there's a lot of subtext going on beneath the surface about kind of the secondary war that's being waged in this conversation. So now, again, this is all kind of me intuiting things, so I could be way off, but it's just my perception of it.
This is arguing over which is the more truer truth, factually correct statements or narratively correct statements.
Mhm.
So, which as a storyteller, you understand like what makes a more powerful narrative and what makes a weaker fucking pissant narrative, right?
Of course. Of
Yeah.
course. Yeah.
And that is, I mean, we'd get a bunch of haters going against us that when we say that's objectively true. I still think it is objectively true, right?
Seki Jokes 451 for £5 says Jordan Peterson gave me that quote third position perspective on spirituality that I was always looking for as an atheist. Definitely helps as an aspiring writer. Well, there you go. That's kind of what you were talking about.
Yeah, hell yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. This is, I think, one of Jordan Peterson's superpowers.
Yes. Yeah. Sean Sullivan for $20 says Jordan Peterson said in a talk with Alex O'Connor, I believe that was the moderator, that a camera placed outside Jesus's tomb would see him walk out. Then he said, I don't know what that means, though. I wish I knew what he believed. A-Team, by the way. Really? Well, okay, that's very fascinating because I hadn't heard that. So, I mean, that would definitely imply that that he believes the resurrection was literal, would it not? Or unless he's trying to leave enough wiggle room to believe, there's some beliefs that like the whole Jesus resurrection thing was like because he faked his death, plot. So I don't know if he's trying to leave enough wiggle room open.
I know
for that.
that's exactly what I thought.
Right. So maybe that's what he means. Because otherwise, because I don't understand how else you'd say you don't know what that means unless you're leaving the wiggle room open that it was not legitimate. So
yeah. I mean, that's exactly where the atheists would go. They would say, "Oh, look, this is just someone set it up."
Right. Right.
Yeah. This doesn't prove anything. Dawkins has even said that. People have asked him, if God came and popped his head out of the sky and said, "It's me, God. Fuck you." Like, would you believe? And Dawkins is like, yeah, probably not. I mean, I would just assume it was like aliens or some advanced.
Well, but that's the problem is why would you? If Zeus appeared in the sky and said that, Greek mythology was correct, like, would you believe it or do you think something else is going on?
Yeah, someone's fucking with you.
Yeah, or someone or something is fucking with you. So,
but I mean, it's an interesting hypothetical because you're
Sure.
admitting nothing would convince me, right?
Well, this is why, even though I believe in God, I don't find any interest in trying to convince people of God or have anything from a spiritual level, is because it's just, to me, it's like, it's not something that you can necessarily, in my estimation, you can't really convince people of. And I feel like it's something people have to experience for themselves. So, because if you're right, like, if God shows up in the clouds, that's not going to really necessarily affect you. I think you have to experience something on a little bit deeper level than that. So,
I am never trying to convince people of anything, but I constantly get messages from people saying, "Oh no, Adam, you have convinced me," which tells me that it's working.
There you go. I love it. I love it. It's like the very sneaky, Adam.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the way you have to. That is how you engage with life, guys. That's how you become a winner.
Right. Well, the light touch.
You do, like a safe cracker.
Right.
Or a
pickpocket. Yeah.
Look at this. Sitch knows.
I know. Yeah. Tom waiting for $10 says Dawkins said Adam is like. Wait, Dawkins saying anything, Adam, is like, quote, Dawkins is wrong and has bad intention. Jordan Peterson says anything, Adams is like, here's what he actually believes and why he's a genius.
Mm-hmm.
I guess Tom doesn't like you.
Where's Tom? I can't.
He's at the bottom.
Oh, so okay.
I had to refresh my browser because it crashed.
I just came in.
Yeah.
Look, Tom, it's your first super chat.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for that. Dawkins says anything. Adam is like, well, look, your central claim here is that I'm biased, which, look, I am biased. Obviously, everyone is biased, but I do think Sitch's perspective aligns with my read of the situation in that like Sitch is making the argument that he wishes Dawkins would stop playing the games and so they could have a deeper conversation, more in tune with what Peterson is actually saying. Like, I think that does align with Dawkins being kind of the guy who is preventing a more interesting, more productive conversation from happening. So, but look, I don't, if you disagree and you are, to each his own, you're more than entitled to disagree.
Right. Sashman for 18 months says, "Sup, boys? How do I approach an argument with people who believe that they cannot be wrong? Example, anti-theist, climate alarmist, and the left is the default."
Ooh, that's $1 million question there.
I mean, I guess there's ways to approach it. I don't know how successful you'd be in changing people's mind. The ways to approach it would just be sort of to just keep asking questions to sort of deconstruct, to try to get the core of where the belief is coming from. And to try to figure out both for yourself and for the person themselves, like, what is everything built upon? Where's all this information coming from? Because usually it's not as solid as most people think it is. So, but in terms of actually persuading people, I don't know if that's persuasive. I found there's only really two ways to be very persuasive. The first is to just continually bring forward information that shows that the sources that they're trusting are wrong, like directly wrong, or and this is kind of unfortunate, to just make yourself such an appealing person that they trust your judgment. Those are like the two most direct ways I think it is to basically change someone's mind in these sort of very deep held belief systems.
You've said this before, chip away at the underlying belief, and this actually did kind of affect my thinking on the woke stuff, really the core of it being related to the oppressor-oppressed lens, because I started thinking, how do I undermine that? Because when we're just talking about individual freedom versus collectivism, I feel like we're just, hitting around the edges. I don't know how to undermine. I don't feel like that actually touches on the central claim or the central problem. So,
right.
But it is difficult to really dive in. What is the underlying structure of the climate alarmist or someone on the left or an anti-theist? I guess the anti-theist is the facts are more important than narrative, which a lot of people don't necessarily know that that's the central animating philosophy.
Yeah, because usually when you're talking to someone who's a very strongly held belief, that belief, it's not just a belief, that belief is a core part of their worldview and a core part of their personality. And so to call that into question is a very scary process for most of us to kind of go down that pathway.
Well, it's scary because you're building other belief structures on top of it.
Right.
Like, obviously we believe in evolution, right?
Right.
The evolutionary
Right. If that was not
process.
true, that would call into question
how we understand
almost
psychology,
everything else that
how
we
we
believe.
understand,
Yeah, right,
exactly.
Yeah.
How we understand psychology, how we understand religion,
Right.
how we understand politics, how we understand it's so fundamental to everything.
Right.
Yes. But I think this is a central problem with the woke stuff, with the oppressor-oppressed lens. I think that is
Correct.
as core to their perspective on everything, fucking the price of milk in the grocery store at type everything, right?
Right. Well, you're right. And that is why it's so dangerous, is that they insert the oppressor critical theory, Marxist perspective, and they build every possible sense-making lens or apparatus that a person would have to understand the world on top of that. And so it's basically like a cult. It's tying in this central pillar, so people are going to be so incredibly hesitant to let you knock it down, because then they have to rethink everything.
So once you understand that, the problem becomes
right,
far more complex, because you're going, First of all, you got to come up with some sort of strategy to undermine that belief. And then you got to think, okay, well, there's so many people that are just fucking lost. There's no way you're going to dislodge that belief out of people. So you got to think, how we got to cut it off where it's starting. Where is it starting, right?
Well,
That's
maybe
another
here,
question.
right? Maybe here's a strategy you could try. I've never thought to do this, but maybe you could try it. Is take kind of the Indiana Jones approach. Remember in like the first Indiana Jones, he wants to take the idol off of the pedestal, and
Oh, that's a good idea.
and he's got like the bag of sand, and he's trying to like figure out like how much it weighs so that he can just do like the really
Right.
quick swap. I think like using
What's
kind
our
of the
bag of sand?
right. So yeah, like so using kind of the visual metaphor of like critical theory, the oppressor lens being this kind of central pillar that's holding up everything else.
Right.
You know, if you just pull it out, everything falls down and there's like this disaster. But if you
Dude,
can
that's brilliant.
slowly
That is brilliant.
right, but if you can slowly replace the pillar with something else,
Yeah, what is it though?
you can do well. That doesn't matter. But I'm saying you could do like a ship of thesis, ship of thesis, Theus. How do you say his name? Am I saying it right?
Theseus?
Theseus, yeah, a ship of Theseus on the pillar, where you slowly replace the sort of oppressor pillar with a different pillar that they can construct their worldview on, so they don't feel so terrified to lose the oppressor pillar.
Yeah, but
Maybe
I
that's
think
the
it
way to
would,
do it.
like the bag of sand had to have a similar weight. I think the
Right.
whatever you replace it with has to have a similar, like a similar properties, so it's accepted and can be utilized, but it doesn't have the same sort of caustic side effects. I mean, this is a lot like what we do with like what do we use to fight viruses? Antibodies,
Vaccines?
vaccines, yeah.
Right.
So I don't know why.
Well,
I
it'd
was
be
there.
like like you're correct. It has to be of similar weight or similar feel. So obviously, if you're
Yeah.
talking to someone who's on the left, you're not going to be able to replace that pillar with a right-wing, morally attuned pillar. It's going to have to still be a morally attuned left-wing pillar
Yes,
that you're
yeah.
replacing it with. But you know, obviously the goal would be to replace the left-wing socialist moral pillar with a left-wing liberal moral pillar.
Right.
So, just a thought
Yeah.
experiment. No idea if
Yeah,
that actually worked.
no. Yeah. It's good to move it, like start thinking about it. Maybe we'll come up with something. All this stuff always comes to me when I'm just like
In the
you know,
shower.
or mowing the lawn, fucking
Right.
trimming the hedge, whatever.
Damless for 31 months. Thank you. Says, have y'all ever considered voting for Kamala? Because Kamala, I always say it wrong. Kamala, because if you don't, me and my internet friends will say mean things and lie about you. Yeah, I mean, that's about it.
That's exactly
That's
what's going
about
on.
it.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Look, I did consider voting for Kamala. And look, I mean, if she does something amazing, I mean, she's got 2 weeks. Time's running out here.
Okay.
Time's running out. Undecided voter. She could still
Right.
swing me. I'm not sure that's going to happen. Sitch.
Adam is a swinger for Kamala.
I might be writing in Yee. I might be writing in Yee again this year.
Oh, God. Don't
Although
do it.
this time I'm going to write Yee because he loves.
No, you have to write in like 2015 right? You have to write in like the specific time.
Oh, yeah,
right.
that's a good. That is
Yeah.
good. That's a good
Classic.
one.
You have to put like classic-y, not like the new flavor.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yee, pre Alex Jones.
No. I guess you'd have to put Kanye, not Ye, right?
Oh, okay. There you go. That's the way to do it.
Tom waiting for $2 says, I do like Adam, but he can be super bad faith. Well, there you go. You got kind of a mixed reception on that one.
Oh, really? Oh, that was time. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Look. We'll work on Tom.
Okay. Sia Paffy, thanks so much for the $15. Says, I would suggest using the term material truth instead of factually true, because like, what the fuck is a fact if not true? I guess that makes more sense. Yeah, material truth.
Sure.
And then he also says, I'm agnostic, but I kind of wish I was brought up religious. I have an intuition that I was robbed of some piece of Americana by not going to church or having a community center like that.
You were robbed.
I don't know. I mean, I guess I went to temple. I never really felt strong community with my Jewish religious community. So I've never really
Right.
felt like I was missing out on some piece of Americana. But I guess obviously there's an Americana cultural experience that is related to Christianity that there really isn't to Judaism. So I don't think I'm missing out on much.
Well, that's good.
CS Paffy for $2 says, I have a similar feeling about cigarette ads, though. I caught the tail end of cigarette ads. I got the tail end of cigarette ads and the tail end of when they used to still have the cigarette machines in restaurants and just out and about. Remember?
Yeah.
They literally used to
remember.
have, if you're a youngster, you might find this crazy. They literally had like machines that you could put, I guess, dollars in or coins in and pull a little lever to get
pack of
fucking
smokes.
cigarettes, which is
Yeah.
kind of insane by today's standards. That was
Get a
everything.
pack of smokes.
Yep. It's also crazy too, like how back when I was very young, just the fact that, when you went to a restaurant, my parents would have to be like,
People would smoke. Yeah.
yeah, they'd have to be like, give us the non-smoking section
Yeah.
specifically. And then sometimes you get there and you'd be like, oh, like this smells like smoke. It's disgusting. Can we sit somewhere else? Because you'd be like too close to the smoking section or something. So
Yeah, I remember when they outlawed smoking in bars in California, and everyone was like, "What?
right.
The fuck? Can't smoke in a bar?"
Yeah. Yep.
But the workers, can you imagine? Oh God,
Gotta be terrible.
I worked at a bar when I lived in New Orleans, and man, you'd come out and you just the stench of you from cigarette smoke.
I know. It's
Horrendous.
gotta be disgusting. Yeah. Same thing if you
Yeah.
work in a casino, I feel like it's just gotta be like,
Oh yeah, casinos are
gross.
the worst.
I wonder if anyone's done a study on like casino workers' cases of secondhand cancer.
Oh, I'm sure it's like it's probably worse than people who work in nuclear reactors. It's probably like
Right. I'm sure.
so much worse.
Maybe it's getting better. Aren't supposedly the vapes better for secondhand?
I don't
smoking
know
and
if I
stuff?
buy any of that.
That could be a lie. That's the argument.
Who
that's supposed to be better.
knows?
So who knows? Fondue for 31 months. Thank you so much. Says Dawkins' argument kind of reminds me of Sargon saying that liberalism isn't true because people didn't really live in a state of nature. I mean, I see the taste comparison, the poetic comparison. It rhymes. I don't know if it's exactly a one-for-one comparison, but I get the vibe feeling that you're talking about. It's definitely there. So. J Mac, our surrogate father for $20 says, lucky you, Sitch. My mom always requested the smoking section. Ooh, that's unfortunate.
Oh man.
Unfortunate.
Get a
MA
little
566
ash in your
for
pork
$5.
chops.
Yeah, God, that's terrible. Says MA 566 says, just like a Tolkien, the events in this book didn't actually happen, yet the books are filled with truth.
Yeah, that's a claim people take to pretty readily.
Right.
People accept that claim. Dawkins doesn't like that claim though.
Jack Orama for 26 months. Thank you. Says, I grew up in a church. The sense of community is all right as long as you follow the same beliefs and it doesn't come out that your dad's gay. Sounds like that was some personal experience that wasn't too pleasant. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's the true of any community. Growing up in a community can be great as long as you have the same beliefs and you're all vibing in peace and harmony. If you grow up in a community and you're at odds with them, I'm sure it's a very not positive relationship or positive effect. So
Yeah, don't mention that you'd contemplate voting for Donald Trump.
Depending on what your community is, could be the vice versa. Yeah. Libertarian Sasquatch, I'm all over the place, Adam, so you're probably not going to find me.
I know. I'm trying to keep up.
Kid Truck 91 for $5 says, would love to see you guys talk to Alex O'Connor. Sure.
Yeah,
I'm not really familiar with his content, but sure, definitely.
I've watched quite a few of his videos, so.
Okay. Let's see. Is this Oh, Tom waiting for $5 says, I've always had a more positive view of Dawkins because he stood his ground when all the woke atheists tried to cancel him. No, and that's definitely, Dawkins is definitely laudable for that and should be applauded for that because he definitely did. He was not with the new atheist. He's definitely like a Bill Maher sort of classical atheist, doesn't want to buy into sort of the cult dogma of everything. So we definitely need people like Dawkins in our society, even when we disagree with them.
No, I do. Yeah, I totally respect Dawkins for that same exact reason. Yeah, he was no nonsense when so many people on the left, and Dawkins is clearly on the left, just folded like a card table.
Yep.
Dawkins was like, you're not coming for my evolutionary biology, bitch.
Well, I think it is an interesting thing because it shows you where their beliefs were stemming from. So with Dawkins, his belief seems to stem from this very rigid perspective of I need to know what is objectively true. Like that is the basis, and everything's built upon that. A lot of people in the atheist community, I feel like, were built upon sort of a left-wing moral foundation of, well, Christianity or religion is bad for women, it's bad for gay people, it's bad for minorities, so that's why I'm atheist. Like that was their belief for atheists. Was
It's
sort
bad
of
for blasphemers.
bad for blasphemers, right? Like, so they didn't really necessarily have a strong, I'm just guessing it, they didn't have a strong principle belief in objective truth the way Dawkins did. It was based more on the moral intuitions they had. So then when
Totally
you have the
agree.
woke
Yeah.
stuff come in, like that's going to make it super easy to subvert all those people into the atheism plus movement.
Yep. That's exactly how it broke down. Yeah. You had a coalition of people who agreed on this one narrow topic, but
Right.
had vastly more disagreements over all kinds of things.
They had
It just
different
wasn't
reasons
apparent.
for, yeah, they had different
Yeah.
underlying reasons for why they agreed on this narrow thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But they
Exactly.
didn't realize that.
Well, they did once it fell apart. Once Steve Shives did that video and everyone was like, fuck this guy.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, look at this. YouTube says creators adopting live automated mid-roll ads saw an average of 20% uplift in in-stream ad revenue per hour. Wow, you guys, YouTube is constantly, you guys don't understand this. YouTube is constantly really trying to get us to put ads in the live stream. Like every time I open the little thing, it's like, now would be a good time to put an ad in your live stream.
They are.
So it's funny.
I mean,
Maybe
we
we'll
don't.
give in
'Cause
one day.
look, you guys are so generous with the super chats.
It's
I don't
true.
feel like we
It's
have
true.
to.
Yeah.
And neither Sitch nor I are like very greedy people, so
No, I'm very greedy.
it's not like we're trying to maximize every
My
penny.
Jewish blood calls out to me.
Don't look. Come
Says,
on.
give me the
There's a
shekel.
negative stereotype that we're trying to work on here. Okay.
Okay, that's true. That's true. That's fair. Spencer Harmon for 30 months of discipline equals freedom. Okay, I'm starting from the top, Adam.
Oh, good.
Okay. Spencer Harmon for 30 months of discipline equals freedom. Thank you. Says Peterson versus Dawkins was incredible. I see little things that Peterson is saying all over the place when it comes to the that science uncovers. On Daily Wire Plus, they nailed down on the organism becoming a microcosm. Oh, I'll have to check that out. I didn't watch the Daily Wire Plus extended bit between them, so.
But I will.
But I will, yeah. Danny and Danny backwards for 2 months. Thanks so much. Says beep.
Boop.
And 48 for 19 months. Thanks so much. Says the meltdown, backstabbing, and finger pointing after this election will be epic. Yeah, well, I don't know. Like, if Trump wins and Kamala loses, I think there's going to be a epic level meltdown, backstabbing, and finger pointing. If Trump loses, I don't think. Do you think there will be? I'm not sure
Oh,
there will
hell
be because
yeah.
Trump will just
Everyone's
come
gonna
out.
point to my tweet and they're going to be like, Adam, you fucking did this. Oh my God. Why'd you post that tweet?
I don't think so, because I think with Trump, there's already the ready-made narrative. If Trump loses, is that the Democrats stole the election, the deep state stole the election.
Oh, look, I can say that. Look, it wasn't my tweet. It was the Democrats. They fucking
Right.
stole this shit.
So
Get them.
I feel like that narrative, maybe, I don't know. I think it will. I think that narrative of they stole the election will provide a large amount of cover for Trump in terms of people doing finger pointing and backstabbing. Now, there still will definitely be some on the right who's okay. Trump's lost, how many elections? I guess 2 elections. Some people strike to say 3 because they want to include the midterm in there, whether that's fair or not. But let's say Trump has lost 2 presidential elections. It's time to, pack it up.
Sitch, are you excited?
I am excited.
I am fucking excited.
I'm excited. I'm trying to figure out who I would be more interested in seeing win.
Mm-hmm.
In turn, like from a non-political perspective, but from like a psychological perspective. And I'm not sure.
Oh,
I think
really?
I have more morbid curiosity to see if Trump lives up to the hype of doing all the bad things, or if it's just a nothing burger.
Right. Hmm.
With Kamala, it's more the morbid curiosity of like, what the fuck? I don't even know what that's going to look like.
Well, I think
Is it
it's
just
going to
gonna
be
be-
wokeness unhinged. That's what I think.
Or is it just going to be like Biden 2.0, essentially? I think that'd be the more probable outcome to the situation.
I think white people are getting gold stars. That's what it's going to be. Yeah.
Oh, really? Really? Okay. Well, they can't
It's-
give you gold star. Listen, they can't give. They'll give them like mayo sandwiches. Okay, there'll be a little patch with like a mayo sandwich, or no, there'll just be a mayo bottle, right, on the on the
Oh,
patch.
okay.
Little Heinz
A
mayo
Miracle
bottle.
Whip patch.
Miracle Whip patch. Okay, we could do Miracle Whip. Stevenson for $5 says the other reminder: Sitch wants Trump in prison for January 6th, so we don't care. We don't need to care about his pearl clutching about Trump going after others. Well, thank
That's
you,
not
Steven.
fair. That's not fair.
It's so funny how like no one on Twitter who's like a Hutch, Destiny, or Pisco fan ever watches this stream.
Do you look? Sitch,
It's
you
so
don't,
funny.
You don't
It's
want
so
Trump in prison, right? Like, that's
Uh,
factually incorrect.
Do I want Trump in prison? Well, I think he deserves to be in prison for the elector scheme. So I say that's actually probably true.
Okay, so you do think he should be in
I think he
prison.
deserves prison for the elector scheme. Yes, specifically for that.
Wow.
Don't tell. Make sure you don't tell anyone in the Destiny orbiting space, because
Yeah,
otherwise
because they all
can't
think we're secret
propagate
right-wingers.
the belief that I'm secretly a Trump supporter. So
Yeah, I
fast.
just like
Yeah.
from the dictator's handbook perspective, it's just if Trump goes to jail, that's going to be even more credibility to go after Democrats.
Well, so
And
that's a
it's just
different
gonna be
question,
fucking
right?
jailing
Right.
everyone. Yeah.
So if you say like, do I think he deserves to go to prison for the elector scheme? I'd say yes. Like, will that be a positive or negative effect on the country? You could be very right. It'd have a detrimental effect on the country. And
Yeah.
thus, from a pragmatic point of view or a consequential point of view, it would be better for Trump to not be in prison and to just be, allowed to languish in Florida at Mar-a-Lago, forever until, he dies of old age or something.
Yeah.
So
This is
would-
like the question
I-
that you posed to Destiny about the would
About the
you
election,
pardon
right.
would you pardon Trump if you knew it avoided
A civil war.
Yeah, civil war, total societal breakdown. And he's like, no, bring on the civil war.
Right.
But I like to think you're more pragmatic than that.
Well,
Like
you're
yeah.
probably correct that, and I would agree with this. It probably would be better for the country if Trump didn't go to jail.
Yeah, because go ahead. I keep interrupting.
Right. Because I think you're right. I think it would cause more problems than it would solve. So
yeah, get us closer to that civil war, which I'm all for avoiding. Yeah.
Right.
But I don't like the idea of people can do horrible things and get away with it. It's just
No.
You got to weigh the pros and cons.
Right. Right. Okay. Fast and Bullish for $5 says Trump might just be the Boogie 2988 of presidents, I fear. Interesting
maybe.
comparison.
Look, I don't know.
Interesting comparison.
I don't know.
We'll see.
I think we've kind of figured out that Boogie's not honest, right?
Right.
That Boogie's like maybe lies indiscriminately.
Was that the takeaway from the end of the Boogie saga?
With the cancer thing? I think so, right? I mean, that last act really kind of said, okay, well, this guy will lie about anything.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine doing something like that, Sitch. That's just fucking crazy.
That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad, yeah.
So I guess he faked a cancer diagnosis and basically got a bunch of money out of his fans for that.
Well, didn't he have, I don't know, didn't he have some kind of disorder, but it wasn't cancer?
Yeah.
It was like a disorder that could lead to cancer, but didn't actually have cancer or something. I don't remember all the specifics.
Yeah, but I don't think it's unfair to call it faking a cancer diagnosis.
No, I agree. Obviously that would be bad. So
like he's basically implied, I'm gonna die soon. I got 3 weeks to live.
Right.
Yeah.
Tarl Chudmunch for 13 months says, listen to yesterday's stream during my evening hike. Every Hassan pause was filled with the sound of crickets and other nighttime sounds. Perfection.
Oh yeah. That's great.
That's
nice to be out at night.
Ashley for $5 says, I kind of wish you guys would be a bit more nuanced on the topic, basically saying Trump going after anyone is weaponizing his DOJ. Well, it depends on obviously what the circumstances are. So if here's the problem. The Trump supporters will never accept that Trump ever did anything wrong. So if the DOJ makes an independent supposed finger quote, right? They won't believe that the DOJ is independent either. Makes an independent determination to go after Trump for committing a crime. They will 100% believe in their heart and soul that Joe Biden directed this activity or that it's done for a political purpose. Because the way it's supposed to work theoretically is that the DOJ is supposed to be independent from the president and is not supposed to go after people for political purposes. So, for example, even though I think that Donald Trump 100% deserves to be gone after for the fake elector scheme, I don't believe it would be right for Joe Biden to pick up the phone and call Eric Garland and direct him to do that action. That's not the correct thing to do. There's supposed to be this separation between the president and the DOJ or the attorney general, or in the DOJ's department, but the attorney general for a reason. You don't want the president using the DOJ as sort of this political attack dog. That's I assume you'd agree, Ostracy, that the opportunity for corruption for a president to use the DOJ as his attack dog is just so massive that that's why there's such this cultural taboo against the president acting in that way. Now, some people will say, well, they already believe that the DOJ is acting in that way, so therefore it's fair for Trump to act in that way, even if it's blatant. I disagree with it. I don't think that that's ever been shown to be in evidence, but that's another conversation. So obviously Trump violating that cultural norm and trying to direct the DOJ literally to arrest Biden, to arrest Hillary, to arrest Obama, I'd say is just a very clear, blatant act of corruption. I'm not sure how to parse it any other way.
A lot of people make the distinction that it's right for him to do that if people are actually guilty, right? If there's a smoking gun on Biden.
Mm-hmm.
My problem with that is I don't trust Trump to discern what the smoking gun is. Like he
Right.
couldn't suss any of that out during the actual election. What makes you think he's going to be able to tell like what's really substantive and what's not now?
No, that's exactly it. And I'm glad you brought that up because, like, I don't have a problem with the DOJ deciding to do an investigation into, Biden to see if there was any evidence of the Victor Shokin conspiracy or to see if there's any evidence that Biden was getting paid by Hunter and was using his power, presidency, or vice presidency to affect, influence in any way. I don't have a problem with them doing any investigation and determining whether Hillary did anything wrong with their emails or whatever. I don't have a problem with them investigating Obama to see if Obama directed the Fed to spy on Trump's campaign. I don't have a problem with any of these investigations. But my problem is that Donald Trump, like if the DOJ does these investigations and they come back empty-handed, which is 99% what's going to happen, because guess what? Congress has already done a billion of these fucking investigations into all these people and have always come up with nothing but circumstantial evidence.
They're on the take, though. They're the deep state, man.
No, but no, Republicans in Congress have done these investigations. And they've only come up with circumstantial evidence, just a lot of smoke, nothing substantive, the same vein that all the Russia investigations showed up with Trump, just like a lot of weird smoke, but there's no actual there that anyone's ever been able to find. Is that when the DOJ, if they did these investigations and came up with this, Donald Trump's not going to just say, oh, well, we did an investigation, we didn't find anything, so let's all move on. He's not going to do that. He's going to say, oh, they're lying, they're fake, this is bullshit. He's going to scream and bluster.
Fucked me again.
Right. It's just, there'll never be an acceptance of innocence, or I should say lack of guilt being proven. So
he just hates Joe Biden too, because of I think he believes that Joe Biden rigged the election, rigged the 2020 election.
Maybe.
So he feels jilted by it.
Right.
Yeah.
Kid Truck 91 for $20. Thanks so much. Says at the point where when I watch Destiny tell me I can't vote for Trump, it makes me want to vote for him. When I watch Tim Pool say Kamala wants the end of the country, I want to vote for her. Feels like I might go the Sitch route. Yeah, it is frustrating as I said, as I predicted completely correctly, as we get closer to the election, both sides of the partisan spectrum will become more and more vehemently energized and more unhinged about the declarations they're making and demand fealty from their viewers or from people around them to support their cause. So
That's really what they want us to do. They want us to demand fealty of you guys.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Which that's so repulsive to me. It's so repulsive to me. And it's so, I don't see how you can say that and think that you are in favor of democracy or respect democracy as a process. It's like oil and water to me.
Mm-hmm. Anonymous Cow for $5 says, if Kamala loses, she lost before it began. I would pinpoint it down to day one when the immigration executive orders were removed out of spite. I disagree. I wouldn't say it was day one. Because if you recall, when Kamala was first chosen, right, when she was first announced as the choice, the energy around her was like nothing we've ever seen for a political candidate.
You mean chosen to be the nominee?
Was chosen to be the nominee,
not the vice presidential candidate.
No. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. When she was no, when she was chosen to be the vice president, no one gave a shit. When she was chosen to be the nominee, the people on the left were so, oh my God, you understand? There was like, for Democrats, they had this feeling. They had this impending doom. They had this massive anxiety. And it was funny watching some of these people try to rationalize this. They all felt like there was this massive guillotine right over their fucking neck. Okay. And that guillotine was Joe Biden's debate performance. And
oh my God, it was beautiful.
There were two ways that people could cope with it. One way was for people to either say, oh my God, I have to get out from under this fucking giant guillotine. We have to replace Joe Biden. And then there was a group of people who like did this fucking insane level of cognitive dissonance to try to convince themselves and the world that the giant guillotine over their neck was actually a coconut cream pie that was going to fall directly into their open mouth and feed them some delicious dessert treat. Okay.
Oh my God.
And it was like this amazing thing to watch. See, if you want to see like who are the people that you should have no respect for their opinion whatsoever about anything political, or those people?
I disagree with the coconut cream pie. I think they always knew it was a guillotine. The strategy became, we will gaslight everybody. Because look, they believe in the manufacturing consent model.
You could be correct,
they do.
Right.
So they're like, okay, problem, we have to manufacture some consent here. Well, let's get out there and start spinning.
I think that my intuition is that the majority of the way that people do the manufactured consent, the way they gaslight other people,
they believe it themselves.
They gaslight themselves first, and then they spread the gaslighting to everyone else.
You could be correct there, but I do think some people are just
cynical about it. Maybe.
I think it's probably opposite. I think they step in, they like know that they're lying, right? But then as other people start believing it, they start believing it themselves. They're like, oh, this is true, actually.
You're correct.
I wasn't really lying.
And people feel a lot like once you're in a community of people that believe something, it makes you feel more comfortable to believe it too. Because you feel like there's it's like, well, it must be valid because other people believe it as well, which is a silly way. But that's the way us humans seem to be programmed. So I'm sure you've all felt that experience where you're like, oh, everyone believes this? Oh, I suddenly feel more confident in this belief now.
It would be interesting to see like David Pakman's response the night of the debate and like a little clip from each of his videos every night afterward, because I bet that is like the path of belief for him. Like he went from just lying, knowing that he's lying and this is all untrue, to being like, wow, this is really correct. Joe Biden is fine.
Yeah, but that's a good thing to put in your mind for like political commentators to never trust, is anyone that said Biden didn't do bad or didn't do poorly in that debate, or that he should stay in. So it's like, okay. But anyway, or that was totally fine. So the people, they had this like massive guillotine over their head, and even the people gaslighting, they could still feel it like on a level they knew that everyone knows the truth on some level. They could feel this thing over them. And so when that guillotine was replaced, when Biden was replaced with Kamala Harris, it was like suddenly so many people stood up and felt alive for the first time in their entire life.
They did. They had options now. We have options.
Like, oh my God. They're like, I felt like I had impending doom right over my head. And now suddenly I feel like I can win this, right? It was like that scene in a movie, it's like the scene in Lord of the Rings where the human army is surrounded on all sides by the orcs. And you're like, it's the end. It's the lowest point ever. And they're like, we're going to fight to the bitter end. And then all of a sudden the ring gets destroyed and all the light shines from the heavens and all the orcs fall in the pits. Like, it's just like, the reprieve, right? The Democrats had this just insane moment of reprieve and hope that was just so incredibly powerful that had Kamala been even a halfway decent candidate, okay, doesn't have to be a great candidate, just a decent candidate who could fucking answer a question without a scripted platitude the way any fucking C tier or B tier politician could answer, right? Elizabeth fucking Warren, could have done this. Anyone could do this. That wasn't some charismatic powerhouse.
Her
I think
voice trembles, so Elizabeth
it
Warren's
does, but
bad.
it's still anything's better than Kamala at this point.
Right.
She's literally one of the worst politicians I've ever seen in my life. It's shocking. But let me just finish here. So
Yeah,
I think
ahead.
any Democrat that was a halfway competent candidate from that amazing level of like hope and energy that the Democrats felt in that moment, I think 100% could have propelled themselves into the White House, regardless of anything Joe Biden did.
Yeah, if this groundswell was behind Josh Shapiro, he'd be like 10 points up.
Right, but he's an actually good politician, so that's
right. Yeah,
its own thing.
Maybe even Gavin Newsom will be 10 points up. It's difficult to say.
Right.
Yeah, she's just look. She kind of. I thought she killed it in the Democratic acceptance speech. I thought, wow, there really is some promise here. But she just floundered ever since.
I don't think she killed. I think she did all right. I don't think she killed it. And I said this at the time. I thought she did all right, but she just can't communicate effectively or on a way that feels human. And it's so obvious. It's so obvious to anyone that's not just blinded by their bias, their partisanship bias. So
what's going to be interesting? God, I hope we're going to know. Hopefully Pennsylvania has their act together, and Pennsylvania, like as soon as Pennsylvania is called, it's so weird because it's like in California, like our polls are never even closed, and
no one even cares. Yeah, it's like whatever.
They're like calling Pennsylvania. Yeah,
they call California like we have 1% of the vote in, and we're calling California for Kamala Harris.
Look, a lot of people are upset about that, but every time we put a poll up, 1% of the vote is in. It's like locked in already. So
I mean, why that is true. That is true.
Doesn't fluctuate much. So
well, also, I mean, occasionally it's fluctuated. Occasionally, but you're right. Okay.
Well, Alex, I'm just saying because the Pennsylvania will know the night of the election. So
right.
Yeah.
Alex Wright for $5 says Trump believes the Victor Shokin hoax, just like every other conspiracy that feeds his intuition. It's illogical to assume he wouldn't go after Democrats. No, I believe that. I agree with that. Aiden Fitzpatrick for 7 Canadian says, "Hey guys, big fan from Newfoundland." Well, hello. Just wanted to link the Trump tariff thing with a new policy from the Canadian Prime Minister: 25%. On Chinese steel and metals.
Really? Wow.
Interesting. Well, there it is. Because of the conversation of like the bad Chinese steel. So,
is it really pronounced Newfoundland?
Newfoundland?
I think it's Newfoundland, right?
Newfoundland? Yeah, whatever. I'm American. I say it the way I want to say it, eh?
These Americans
don't piece of yours, eh, Adam?
I know that. That's Canadian.
Yeah.
I know that from Strange Brew.
Well, Diacity for $10, right? Just knowing a little more. Yeah, okay, anyway. Just jewelry. Just knowing a little more than either of you about the government job space, they all act and turn into jealous of schoolgirls when they get fired or reassigned. Is that just, I feel like that's like every job space. I don't think that's just government job space.
Yeah, it sucks to be fired. I've been fired. Sitch, you ever been fired?
I have been fired, yes.
Really? Oh, wow.
Of course I've been fired.
Wow.
But
I would have never guessed that.
Wow. Okay. Because I'm such a good worker.
Obviously. Yeah, no, because you got the schoolboy image, the clean schoolboy image.
That's not true at all. I used to be a massive slacker. So.
Oh, so you've gotten fired for slacking.
It's hard for me to, if I feel like I'm doing something that's just fucking stupid, it's really hard for me to care. I like to be motivated if I feel like it's just stupid.
Yeah.
And so if I voice my opinion that this is a waste of time and stupid and they don't care, it's just hard for me to care at that point either. So
I would not voice my opinion. I would just not do the thing. That was more my strategy.
right, but then why didn't you do the thing?
Yeah, no, you run the risk of that too.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know. I just feel like that's been my experience, has been the same. I've never worked in a government job, so I can't compare it. But when I hear people who have talk about it, it lines up very closely to my experiences working in private jobs and other people I've heard talk about private jobs. So I feel like there's not too much of a difference. So, but that is important to take into consideration when you're talking about like all the people that used to work for Trump or for any candidate. Because I know that Kamala had like what the highest turnover rate too. 90, some massive, I forget what it was, like 93% or something. So
Right.
I know that I don't know if any of name sources have come out that have spoken ill of Kamala. I know anonymous sources have come out in the past. I don't know if they've all come out since she's been chosen as a candidate, but in the past have come out saying that she's basically massively incompetent. So,
Do you know
But you'll-
Kellyanne Conway did a podcast with David Plouffe?
no.
David Plouffe was famously Barack Obama's campaign manager, right?
Mm-hmm.
Widely credited for getting Barack Obama elected.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's super fascinating. I've only listened to a couple of the episodes, but I'm definitely going to listen to them all. They stopped doing the podcast because David Plouffe, once Kamala Harris got the nomination, David Plouffe joined the Kamala Harris campaign. So they kind of
Right. That makes sense.
put the kibosh on it. But it's super interesting. I would love you to read Kellyanne Conway's book and get your perspective on that, because maybe that would you'd see Trump in a different light. Do you, you should, or you could at least check out a couple episodes of the podcast, right? She's going at it with David Plouffe. So
I would like to. I mean, that sounds like a very interesting podcast duo. So.
yeah, it's super fascinating. It is,
Right.
because they have completely different perspectives on a lot of things. And Kellyanne Conway is fucking smart as hell. Yeah.
Well, Kellyanne Conway.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say she has some interesting emotional baggage to defending Trump beyond the average person, because when she was working for Trump, her daughter was so vocally, publicly attacking her for it. Which
her husband too. I think they got a divorce over it.
Right. Which to me is kind of, even though I, don't like Trump and everyone knows that, who actually listens to the show and is not some kind of weirdo left-wing person on Twitter, I think that that's kind of psychotic. Like if my parent was working for Trump or any politician I didn't like, my loyalty to my family member is more like important. Like I would talk to them about it and maybe argue with them about it, but I would never go full blast and attack them publicly. Like to me, that's just a disgusting action on a very deep level. Unless
Kellyanne Conway, are you saying attacked her daughter?
No, I'm saying her daughter attacking her.
Right.
Is disgusting.
Okay. Good. Yes. Because I can't imagine Kellyanne Conway doing.
No, I
anything
don't.
Like that.
I don't believe she ever did, to my knowledge. But I'm saying her daughter attacking her so publicly, and I don't even think she was like. Yeah, to me it was terrible. I don't even think she was like an adult daughter. Wasn't she like just 18 or something? And it was just so weird and kind of sickening and bizarre. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. So
yeah. Yeah, I don't know much about that. Kellyanne Conway knows Trump because her and her husband lived in Trump's building. And they were involved in some kind of HOA type situation. And Trump would regularly go to the HOA meetings. So she would interact with him personally at those meetings.
Mm-hmm.
So they have like a long history.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, no. The reason I was bringing that up was because I was saying that because she's had that experience, it's going to add an additional level of emotional desire to be defensive of Trump, because it's like you don't want to believe that you lost your family over something that was so stupid or bad. So
yeah. Everything about Kellyanne Conway that I've read and listened to, though, like gives me the perspective that she has like a super ethical core, which I would like to think if Trump was doing shady shit, which just doesn't rule out the fact that Trump is doing shady shit. Trump is smart enough to know not to do shady shit in front of the Catholic schoolgirl, right? Like she's going to be the one to narc you off, right?
Right.
So it's not, but I would like to think if she knew anything, she would spill the tea. She seems like that type.
I don't know. I've never read her book or I've seen any of these things that you're referring to.
She
so
did,
I don't
they,
have an impression
so
of this, but-
she did something for, I think, Frontline or did an interview, and they published like the entire interview. It's over, I think it's like an hour and a half long. You should listen to that. It's pretty fascinating. Did I send that to you? I'm not sure I even
I
sent
don't
it
think
to
you
you.
did.
Yeah. Yeah. Kellyanne Conway is definitely the one who worked for Trump, still supports Trump.
Right.
I don't know if there is a second person.
I don't know.
What about Barr?
Well, see, Barr, it's so funny because Barr, at first, even though he said famously that Trump was unmoored from reality and quit because he thought Trump was unhinged, he still maintained
He still supports him, yeah.
for a few years that he would vote for Trump. But then I think he eventually changed.
No, I
don't
think
know what-
he's currently supporting Trump.
Is he? Okay. he's
Yeah.
Still, I thought last I heard he was not going to vote.
How about Nikki Haley?
Well, obviously, I don't think she's yeah. So
But she worked for Trump and still supports him, so.
does she?
Yeah.
Interesting.
She's supposed to campaign for
Well,
him.
listen, she wants to get in that cabinet position. She's still holding out.
I totally agree, but anyway, God, I'm
Barr,
so
who
excited.
said Trump. Okay, this is very interesting. This is from April of this year. Barr said Trump shouldn't be near the Oval Office, but still says he will vote for him in 2024.
What fucked up timeline are we living in, Sitch?
Former Attorney General Bill Barr, who previously said Donald Trump shouldn't be near the Oval Office, told CNN's Catelyn Collins on Friday that he would vote for the former president over Joe Biden. Oh, okay. So this is right. Yeah, of course. I think Biden is unfit for office. I think Trump would do less damage than Biden. I think all the stuff about a threat to democracy. I think the threat to democracy is the progressive movement and the Biden administration. There you go. Interesting.
Yeah,
I don't know
it's
how that
fascinating.
fits with people's conspiracy theory that Bill Barr is really part of the secret deep state, but okay.
Yeah. Just kind of an unfounded assertion at this
And
point.
that's so retarded. But and also, yeah, I don't know if you could vote for Kamala because wasn't there some famous clip of Kamala like shitting on Bill Barr in Senate that they were all sharing around? Remember that?
Really?
Yeah, that was like
There's
the famous
no way
clip.
Bill Barr is going to vote for a Democrat.
No, he's very, very Republican.
Yeah.
So, and I'm assuming if he would endorse her, she's saying she's praising Dick Cheney endorsing her. You think she could pull up Bill Barr? So,
I read his book too. That's what's so funny, arguing with all of these people of this massive like perspective on Trump. I bet you, like I've read all of these fucking insiders' books,
right?
like 5 or 6, maybe 7 books. Their perspective, where's it come from? Who knows? It's fucking all gut level nonsense.
Mm-hmm. Libertarian Sasquatch for $5 says, I mean, haven't we heard all the same stuff from Kamala's ex-staff members, how much she sucks and is drunk? It's really hard to know people's motivations. Yeah, I was just saying that, but yeah, well, have we heard her ex-staff saying she was drunk? I don't remember reading that. I remember reading her ex-staff saying that she was like really shitty at the job, but you were correct. And that's kind of the difficulty of parsing off truth from reality is, what is jilted ex-staffers and what is real.
The problem I have with that is that every badass director has a reputation for being a fucking dick that everyone hates.
Right.
And it's like at some point, like if you're going to produce anything of value, I think you got to bust some heads sometimes.
You have to really push people.
Yeah. Look, Elon Musk is famously hated because he wants that. He wants you to fucking give it your all.
Right.
And so you really don't know. Is that what's going on? Is Kamala Harris one of these people who's like, I gotta fucking get the best out of people, and that means I have to kick some fucking people in the pants and get them working, right?
Right.
Or she's just the person who's like catty bitch, never does anything, right? It's their office just revolves around office politics and gossip and stuff like that. Because that could be the perspective too, right? Yeah, I've worked in places like that where nobody's doing anything. They're just fucking sitting around bullshitting about each other, complaining about shit, right?
Right.
That's a nightmare work situation too. Then you've got a bunch of disgruntled people going out of there going, oh, they're fucking losers. They don't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Which of those perspectives is true, Sitch? Who knows?
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
William Vance for $20 says, my only hope is that if they are going after their political rivals, it's done legitimately with actual evidence and solid charges. At least then the swamp will drain itself every time they swap political majorities. Yeah, I mean, that's like always the thing here is like, I wouldn't care if it was all done correctly, right? That's just always the concern is that it's not going to be done correctly. So like, I do think Trump is going to I think Trump is going to try to get an attorney general very specifically. He's going to press charges against Democrats. I think they will do this. I don't think any of those charges are going to stick though. I don't think they're going to find anything to make those charges stick. And it's just going to be a massive, waste of everybody's time essentially. But I read that one. Let's see.
Captain Howdy in the chat says, stop listening to books, Adam. Why?
Yeah, read them, Adam. Don't listen to them. Read them.
Oh, look, a lot of people have that perspective. They're like, I don't need more information.
Right.
I need to make my decisions based on less information.
Well, yeah,
how is that a good perspective?
Well, I mean, I think the benefit is that you have to listen to or read a bunch of books, right? You can't just read one book from one person's perspective and assume that that's gospel, because obviously they're going to paint themselves in a positive light.
And that's exactly what I'm doing. Yeah,
Right.
I completely agree with you. Yes.
So,
I'm reading insiders that hate Trump. I'm reading insiders that love Trump. Right.
Trying to see if you can piece something together through all the noise.
Yeah.
Some consistent picture.
It's the same thing. I want to answer that question. I just asked about Kamala Harris's office. Where am I going to get that information? A lot of people are just satisfied with, their gut intuition on it. Oh, look, she's a ball buster because she wants the best, right? Oh, she's a ball buster because she's a drunk. Like, where do you get evidence like that if you don't get it from the people who are in her fucking office?
You get it from the other team that tells you that
that lies to you 24/7.
Right.
You get it from pandering politics, whose
right.
job it is to gaslight you.
Right. Okay. Oh, my thing just crashed again.
Again?
It does it like every 20 minutes. The tab crashes.
We're gonna need to do a donation drive. Someone needs a new computer. Daddy needs a new computer.
Need a new laptop. Floki VT for $10 says Harrison just did a campaign speech, the VP seal and flag at federal building against Hatch Act. Should Trump prosecute? Is it attacking political opponents? Should the op letter of president be exempt of law? I thought first of all, I thought the Hatch Act, I thought the president and vice president were exempt from the Hatch Act, weren't they? Yeah, man, let me look this up here. I don't remember. Hatch Act. Hatch Act. The Hatch Act, a federal law passed in 1939, limits certain political activities of federal employees as well as some state, DC, and local government employees who work in connection with federally funded programs. Okay, that doesn't answer the question. Hatch Act, United States federal law that prohibits civil service employees and executive branch of the federal government, except the president and vice president, from engaging in some forms of political activity. Yeah, so I guess what you're suggesting, I don't see how that would be a violation of the Hatch Act. But to answer the spirit of the question, I think, and we've talked about this a lot too, because you've brought up how in the Dictator's Handbook and a lot of these things, part of the problems with going after people that were in office is that's what makes people retain power. That's kind of what we're seeing with, I think, with Netanyahu, is they never want to leave power because they know the second they leave power, they'll get arrested by their opposition or something.
Yeah.
And that's kind of that's a very good incentive for people to act very authoritarian. This is part of why I think the elector scheme that Trump tried to do in the last election was so damaging, was because if he had been successful, I do think you would have had a situation where the Democrats would have run off of throwing Trump and all the other Republicans in jail, and you would have had this kind of situation where Trump and the Republicans are going to have to retain power in order to prevent them from going to jail. So because of that, I do think that both sides should be very cautious about investigating and throwing former presidents, former politicians in jail. Not that they shouldn't do it 100%, but that the reason they do it should be like something pretty substantial. So it should be something pretty substantial. So even if theoretically, VP Harris violated the Hatch Act by just simply doing a press conference or a campaign with her little seal, I would say that is not worthy enough to sort of cause all this stir hay over, to risk that sort of threat.
I agree.
Edward Sr. for $10. Oh, I missed this one. Said Jordan Peterson stocked out a literary position, not a literal position. Now he can argue social evolutionary principles are more grounded in psychology than biology.
Psychology is rooted in biology, so
that is also true, but a lot of people don't like to conceptualize that. So SB Elite for $5 says, what do y'all think of the sudden obvious new slander coming out on Trump groping someone? H-man generals and saying, Hitler, generals, and saying the N-word. Good timing, huh? LOL. I didn't hear this groping accusation. Did you hear that one? I didn't hear that one.
I know. I mean, look, he's already admitted he grabs him by the pussy. What's the big deal here?
Donald, this is the article from The Guardian. Donald Trump groped me in what felt like a twisted game with Jeffrey Epstein. Oh my God.
No way.
Not only
They're
is it a
going
groping
for blood.
accusation, they connected it to Jeffrey Epstein. Holy shit. Oh my God. A former model who says they met Donald Trump through the late sexual abuser, Jeffrey Epstein, has accused the former president of groping and sexually touching her in an incident in Trump Tower in 1993. There you go. I mean, you're correct in terms of, obviously, if you have all these accusations that are things that have been going on that happened years ago, and then suddenly, they all come out now, seems kind of suspect. So,
yeah, in October.
Right, they all come out, this close.
The October surprise.
Right. SB Lee for JR says also Vanessa Guillen and the Hatch Act thing too. Is there a Hatch Act thing for Trump? I don't know what the Hatch Act thing for Trump is.
So, I don't know.
There's so many different things that are coming out. It's crazy.
Did you see Elon Musk is giving like $1 million away to families who register to vote Republican? Did you see that story?
I thought it was people that agreed to
sign
support the
Second
Amendment or something.
Yeah.
I don't think you can pay people to register Republican. Isn't that illegal?
Yeah, that is illegal.
Okay.
That's the controversy, because he's only allowing people to enter the raffle or sweepstakes or lottery or whatever it is if they're registered. So
yeah, but what is the exact the petition created by America PAC encourages voters in 6 swing states, Georgia, Nevada, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, North Carolina, to sign a petition in favor of free speech and the right to bear arms. Those who refer another voter to sign up is promised a sum of $47.
Another voter.
Is that illegal? Yeah, but as long as it's not,
like
as long as it's not for,
discriminatory.
but as long as it's not for specific parties, is that illegal? I thought it'd only be illegal if you say you have to vote for a party or candidate. That would be illegal.
I think the argument that they're making is that it's illegal to not allow other people to enter the sweepstakes because they're not registered to vote. It's like discriminatory.
Oh, you're saying that I see what you're saying. You're saying that everyone should have to, like, just
Everyone should be
limiting
able
it
to
to
enter,
people that
yeah.
are registered is, I don't know enough
Yeah.
about the law to know if that's the case.
Well, I don't know enough about the law to know if that's the case. I know that's the argument that
Right,
people who are
gotcha.
saying it's illegal are making.
In the article, they said there's a U.S. code that says anyone who pays or offers to pay or accepts payment either for registration to vote or for voting faces a potential $10,000 fine
Yeah,
or a
that's
5-year prison
there
sentence.
you go.
Huh. I guess I'd have to see exactly what the law says and exactly what the petition says, though. I mean, it sounds like he's skirting pretty close to the thing, whatever it is.
What is your take on Elon Musk coming as like a package deal with Trump?
I don't really have a strong opinion about it either way. What do you mean?
Well, I think it could be kind of good.
I mean, my problem with Elon Musk is that I don't know if, like, all the stuff that he's doing, is he just doing it because he needs to have Republican allies because the left is attacking him and all of his companies? If that was the case and I knew it was all just like a lie or cynical, I would feel a little bit more confident about him being in government and potentially doing something good. If he actually
I think that is the
believes it,
case.
if he actually believes it and believes all this stupid shit that he's tweeting out, then I don't. Then I'd be kind of nervous. So
Hmm.
I
I
would be
only
less
ever see him
happy
tweet.
about him. So,
I only ever see his important tweets.
I mean, he tweets out every Republican conspiracy theory about everything
Right.
consistently. So
Did you hear him at some rally talk about Epstein's like list? Like he basically alludes to there's a huge deep state and everyone is on Epstein's secret list or travel list or whatever.
can you hold on 1 second?
Yeah,
Someone
sure.
keeps calling me. I gotta tell them I'm streaming.
Okay. Do it up. I'll just argue with the chat for a bit. Maybe I'll read a super chat. That sounds fun. What super chats have we not read? Well, let's see.
Okay, I'm back.
Oh, that was quick. Look.
Okay, I
didn't even get to show off my powers of stalling.
SB Lee for 2 hours says this is not a super chat. I Sitch declare Adam a goy. There you go. I like that.
What does that mean?
It means you're a goy, I guess.
What is that? Is that like a soy guy?
A non-Jew.
Oh yeah.
That is true. Adam is in fact a non-Jew. Okay.
But I am one of the chosen people, so.
Well, because I chose you. So.
That makes a difference. I'm one of the 144,000 that actually go to heaven.
There you go.
Yeah. Heaven's pretty small, so it's very elite.
Mm-hmm.
Only a few people get to go.
Right. Old School Friday says, OT just voted in Portland, 19 candidates for mayor. We can only rank 6. The problem of voting being tossed is high. Instant runoff voting is a crock.
You think that's going on?
I don't know.
19 candidates for mayor. Wow. They should just do wrestling or something. Power sports. Hang gliding, right? Gymnastics.
There you go.
Pole vaulting.
Sodoge for $5 says, I missed the stream today, but here's my 2 cents. The 30-day ban is delicious because the next 30 days is the time to be a political streamer. That's a good point.
Oh, wow. That's a good point.
Good point. Number 2, Sodoge for another $5 says, of all groups to go after, vets is the worst choice because they actually band together and have influence the way Frogan's claims Jews do. LOL. That's funny.
Ooh, that is very true.
Right. Adam Unfriended for $20 says, now that we've been fighting wokeness and are seeing the fallout, studios are starting to pivot. What happens when the war ends? What's the plan after wokeness goes broke? S-Class is the best class. an A team is all right today.
Nice.
Well,
Yeah, what is the plan
what is the
after
plan?
wokeness?
I don't know.
Who's going to
We'll
be
have
our
to-
enemy?
We'll have to see once we get there. I don't think there is no plan after. The plan is we enjoy. Okay. Plan is that we're happy. We're happy.
We put our
again.
feet up and we love all the great art and music that comes out.
That's true.
All the free speech,
Right.
all the incendiary debates. Be great.
M8566 for $5 says, whenever Sitch says Trump chat spams TDS, y'all haven't seen real TDS if you think Sitch has TDS. Yeah, it's true. There's a lot of very, very pampered Trump supporters in chat who are very delusional because I guess they just don't talk to people or in spaces with people that actually have TDS. So
Yeah.
I think half of it
wow.
in chat is just a meme anyway. So the only problem is half of the chat doesn't realize that the other half of the chat doesn't know that it's a meme. So
Right. Yeah. Ooh, that's a problem.
Mr. Playlist for $5 says Sargon is the Dawkins of liberalism. There you go. I like it. Mike Mills for $5 says thoughts on Elon constantly trying to link Kamala to Diddy with no evidence. He's been putting out a lot of disinformation lately. First of all, I didn't even know he was doing that. Secondly, see, Adam, that's exactly what I'm fucking saying. Elon's doing all this unhinged, stupid fucking shit. He believes every retarded conspiracy possible. This is why I don't want him in government, because I'm afraid he actually believes this shit.
I mean, I read this book on Diddy, and he does. I'm kidding. I'm joking.
That was pretty good.
Yeah. Look, maybe she's guilty, Sitch. That could be the possibility. You don't even know.
That's true. I don't even know. Yeah, maybe she really is tied to Diddy somehow.
Just Elon Musk has this attitude that's just hilarious to me. Because he's like, maybe it's true, maybe it's not. Who cares?
Yeah, but the problem is he's such a big figure. A lot of people
No, I get it. Look, I get it. I completely agree with you. I agree with you. People who have a big footprint should be more cautious. So this is like the billionaire problem, right? He's a billionaire. Trump's a billionaire. They're like, what? I said it. Fuck you. That's their attitude. They're like, hell yeah, I have a big footprint. Who fucking cares? Sad.
Sad. Lou Silver for $5 says, woke up on the right, me and quite surprised, but not.
Okay.
Is that like a song lyric or something?
I don't know.
AKA Batosai for 31 months says, Adam moving to dark mode was audience captured. Ha ha. Oh, is that true? Did you fight against dark mode for a while?
No, I love dark mode. I can actually read better when it's white text on a dark background. So sometimes my reading problem is these super chats. It's like dark text on a green background. Fucking lame. Oh, look, it's got mine in here. Shh.
Fondue Friday says the worst persons are the ones that try to weaponize your morals against you as if my values exist for their convenience.
Oh,
true.
Fondue. Yeah. I want to frame that super chat.
That's a good one.
It is so true.
Bold Menace for $2 says I would be a vile person if I didn't fear God. There
Look, it's good that you can say that. Like, I just don't understand anti-theists who don't understand the logic behind that. It's like, let me think here. You're being tortured for eternity is not going to dissuade you from certain behaviors. Are you an idiot? Sitch, wouldn't that dissuade you from certain behaviors?
It would, of course.
Yeah.
Bold Menace, or the one, Rich Jammer for 31 months says, Adam, reading books are for nerds. I want to be a cool guy and only watch the Adam and Sitch show.
Good for you. That's right. I read the books so you don't have to, okay?
I've never seen this show, this Adam and Sitch show. Is it good?
It's amazing.
Oh, okay.
There's this guy, Adam, and he hangs out with his friend Sitch.
Right.
Some people call him Stitch.
Oh, you mean the Sitch and Adam show? Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
I didn't realize we were talking about the same show here.
Nice.
Fondue for $5 says, I guess that means Sitch won't watch Friend till the culture war is over. You're correct. I
The
will not
culture
watch
war will be over.
Friend until the culture war against elves is over.
Guys, I've told you the culture war ends in 2033. Okay, we have 9 years left. A pivotal figure is going to rise to power that will rival FDR, Lincoln,
No, not gonna happen.
George Washington. Like pivotal, right? It's likely Kamala Harris.
Right.
Oh my God, Sitch. Can you look? I know obviously Sitch does not believe in the generations theory. Like he thinks this is complete bullshit. But just hypothetically, let's say it's true. Can you even imagine Kamala Harris being this figure?
No.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
I can't imagine Trump being the figure either, though.
Really?
Yeah, yes. Really?
Look.
You can?
Yes, because
okay.
Like you read historical accounts of the Lincoln situation, and the people in the South fucking hated his guts, compared him to Hitler. Well, I guess Hitler wasn't around then, so they couldn't compare him to Hitler, but called him a dictator. They said all the same things that they say about Trump.
Right.
Yeah, but his supporters obviously loved him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alex Wright from $5 says, how will this Department of Government Efficiency work? Will must divest from Tesla, SpaceX, etc., assuming he'll be the department head, Adam? Question mark.
Of course not, okay? He's not going to divest from any of... Look, he's going to apply his efficiency standards to the government, which I don't think is a bad idea. I've read, believe it or not, both books on Elon Musk. Elon Musk has this production algorithm that he talks about in the book that he implements. It's like a 10-step algorithm that is brilliant. If we could apply that to government, oh my God, it'd be amazing. This is an interesting thing, because I'm sure you agree, Sitch. The chief argument that Republicans make is that government doesn't work, right? Government's inefficient, government sucks, government can never work. Like it's fundamentally flawed.
They don't philosophically agree with the nonprofit motive means of being, which is interesting because that was the original complaint, but now the populist right doesn't actually, they still hold the sentiment that government doesn't work, but they don't have the same philosophical belief for it not working. It comes from a completely different idea.
If that could change, and Elon could have a hand in changing that. Like just perceptually, he could have a hand in changing that Republican idea. That would be awesome. That'd be completely awesome. I think that's one of the problems that we have in government is that Republicans, they run on government sucks and is inefficient, and then they lead on government. They make government inefficient and suck because it validates their narrative and helps them in the next election. How do you break that cycle other than Elon Musk? Elon Musk is a great way to break that cycle.
I think even if Elon Musk was in this position and theoretically made government more efficient, I don't think it would break the cycle. I think that idea of government sucking is just too indoctrinated into half the country that nothing will ever change it. Because as I said, it doesn't even, like, the original belief for the government sucking was rooted on the sort of neoliberal perspective of course it sucks. You have a non-profit organization. Everything has to be profit motive, profit driven. But then now a huge swath of the populist right that supports Donald Trump, they're not neoliberals. These are not pro-business people that rah, private business solves everything. Like the libertarians are. And yet they still, and so they still have the belief system government sucks. It's just shifted, the reason for it is just shifted to, deep states, it's against us, it's not going to help us. It's just helping immigrants. But like there's a million other reasons. So it's like, the belief stays the same, but the intuition or the underlying philosophy just gets changed out over time. So I don't think anyone will ever change that.
People bend to results, though. People respect the power results.
Maybe.
If Elon Musk can come in and find a bunch of government waste and they can cut spending in half and cut taxes in half, I just find it hard to believe that people are not going to worship Trump and
If he
Elon
could do,
Musk.
I'm super
Yeah.
skeptical of that being the case. So
I don't know. I have no idea
as
how
I said,
much government waste there is.
if Elon wasn't so fucking unhinged on Twitter, saying the stupidest, craziest shit ever, I would have a lot more confidence in his role in government.
If Trump wasn't unhinged,
If
Or
if Elon
Elon?
Musk wasn't saying the most dumb fuck shit every day on Twitter, that's just obviously not fucking true, saying literally every fucking conspiracy theory that comes out of the right, he just fucking regurgitates with absolutely no fucking fact-checking method in his brain whatsoever. He just regurgitates like, this is important, or I emoji, right? If he wasn't doing that, if he actually committed to when he first bought Twitter and there seemed like there was going to be this commitment to making Twitter a politically neutral place and he was going to be this like enlightened centrist type and all that stuff, I'd be like, okay, I'd be super on board with this Elon Musk thing. But now I don't know because I don't know what the fuck's going on with him. I have no clue what's going on with him. Is this all cynical, or has he been so attacked by the left that he's become the monster that they wanted him to always be? And I don't know the answer to that question.
Do you think evaluating a person solely on their tweets is like a good way to get a read of what type of person
It's
they are?
not. That's why I just said I didn't say he's awful. I said I don't know. I have no
Right.
clue.
Okay.
He could just be fucking shit posting on Twitter
I think
because
he is,
he's
yeah.
trolling and he thinks it's funny.
I think he is.
Or
He's trolling. He thinks it's funny.
I don't know. I have no fucking clue. Or he could really believe this shit. As I said, he could. And when he first bought Twitter, the left was like so insanely unfair to him and was attacking him in this like very disgusting way and attacking him over all these accusations of things that he didn't do and didn't seem like he was going to do. And it like broke his brain. And now he's doing all the things that they were accusing him of doing, which in their minds on the left just proves them right. And they say, see, we told you, we knew. So I think it's a very bad strategy for him if that's what he's doing.
Right. Yeah, I think there's more to
Anyway.
more to what's going on, but yeah, let's
get
we're
the
running
fuck
way
outta here.
late. But this is fun. I can't fucking wait. I'm so excited about the election.
Let's see. Luso for $5 says, I was commenting on the proliferation of white dudes like myself waking up from the left and voting Trump. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely, that's definitely happening with men and white people, really getting sick and tired of the hyper wokeness coming out of the left. So there might be, I'm curious to see what the finger pointing is going to be like around that area if, Kamala wins, or I'm sorry, if Kamala loses. So.
We should do a white dudes for Trump stream, just so people have a place
We should
to
not do that.
Just so people have like a rallying point.
Go Mag for 26 months says, if Project 2025 becomes relevant again, you should talk to Mentis Wave about it. He's a libertarian, read it, and has an interesting take on it. Sure. I'll check it out. Soto for $5 says, a new department to cut other departments is self-defeating. Also, we all know Sitch can't read books right now because he's too busy working on a new video. This is very true.
A new department to cut other is look, Solidosh, we disagree. Okay, but let's move on.
Alex Wright for $5 says, if he's regulating agencies, regulating his companies, how do you avoid corruption? Is he going to be holding a position in the cabinet? Well, that would be the $1 million question. Even if the problem would be, like, theoretically, if he's just trying to suss out government waste, he shouldn't really, I don't know how much of his companies would be involved in that process. I guess it would be to some capacity. The big issue would be whenever any company that he owns gets a government contract, the assumption would be it's for corrupt reasons, would be the automatic assumption, even if he's not in that direct position. Now, obviously, if he was in a direct position, it would make it seem even more 1,000 times corrupt, regardless of whether it actually was or not. The perception of it would just be so strong.
Companies hire efficiency experts all the time to come in and, help them make their business run more efficient. So I don't
Right.
see why Elon Musk couldn't basically audit each of these different institutions.
Because you didn't address anything I just said.
Mm-hmm.
If he's auditing, if he does a bunch of audits and says, "Oh, look, all the times the government hires a company I own is efficient, and all the times it hires a company that's not mine, it's inefficient," that obviously seems like that would breed to easy calls of this looks corrupt, right?
I do not perceive. I don't know that he would be auditing his companies, obviously, because he's already using his processes to make those companies as
No,
efficient as
no.
possible.
He
He'd
wouldn't
be
be
auditing
auditing his
other.
companies. He'd be like, if he's auditing government efficiency and say he's auditing the efficiency of, say, NASA, right? And it's like, well, here, all the times NASA hires SpaceX, they're being efficient. All the times NASA doesn't hire SpaceX, they're being inefficient, right?
Right. Yeah. Obviously, that would be a huge conflict of interest.
Exactly. That would be
but,
the question. So
yeah. Look, I don't think anything like that would take place, because it would just scream, "Oh my God, this is corruption."
well, we'll see, I guess.
But
What if Trump wins and Elon doesn't even get in the government at all? People are gonna feel like they've been lied to.
Probably, yeah.
Hmm.
Elon went and met with Trump when Trump became president and talked to him about like transitioning from a fuel-based economy to like an electric-based economy, right? And he wasn't real happy with Trump's perspective on it. Like he sensed that Trump was not a person who was into the details. Like he just wanted the big picture. And Elon is obviously a huge detail guy, right?
Right.
So it was a clash of personalities, and nothing ever became of that. He didn't want to join him. He just like went his own separate way. But now that he is being attacked by the left, and the left, they could disband Twitter if Kamala Harris wins the election. I don't think that's outside the realm of possibility. So
I mean, that'd be fucking insane if that happens, but
why?
if they disband Twitter on what grounds?
That
would be
they're
as
spreading misinformation.
No, I think I don't think that would happen. I think that'd be such a massive political mistake, such an obvious political mistake. That'd be as
That it's how about it has a monopoly on public discourse, on political discourse? How about that?
it doesn't though.
Well, they would argue that though.
Okay, I mean they could theoretically try to do it. I think it'd be such a huge mistake.
No, I
completely
agree.
Destroy Kamala's administration the way that Trump going after Democrats would destroy his administration. It would just bog down and they lose all their political capital right off the gate.
So if that happened,
They could do
you would be totally surprised. You would think, "Oh my God, I never believed this would happen in a billion years."
I wouldn't say that surprised.
Okay, look.
Surprised. I would say there's about an 80. I'd say there's about a 20 to no. I'll say 10% chance that happens. I'll give you a 10% chance.
Okay.
If Kamala wins,
my claim was,
right,
I wouldn't be surprised if that happened.
well, I would be surprised if something like a 10% chance of happening happens. But
okay.
What are your chances of if Donald Trump
anything that I perceive of as possible? I'm not surprised by.
Okay,
yeah.
well, I guess we're using terms differently. But if Trump wins, what percentage chance do you think it is going to be that he's going to nix the TikTok ban?
That's tough, because I would. It's like a 50-50, because Kevin O'Leary supports Trump, and Kevin O'Leary wants to buy TikTok, so he would do it for selfish reasons, but still do it.
Oh, so that would be keep the TikTok ban so that Kevin O'Leary
could buy it and make it. Right? Yeah, he could. Okay. Then he can, he can.
Well, he's also being funded by people that own a stake in it that don't want it funded, so he has a selfish reason to keep it unbanned as well.
Right, but I do think it plays more to his isolationist, we shouldn't trust China brand that I think will appeal to his base ultimately.
I would agree.
I think it's an easier sell then, oh, we're just going to forget that China's controlling all of our young people so that I can
Right.
like
Right.
make these donors happy.
Right.
Right.
Solid for $2 says, remember the January 6th guy who was ratted out by his son? The son testified that the dad threatened to kill his family if anyone told on him. If that's true, he deserved to be ratted out. Also, Conway and her daughter are good now. Well, obviously, if you have a family member threatening to kill you, that's a completely different situation than the Conway daughter situation. I guess I'm glad that they're good now. I don't know. I mean, I don't have a child, so I don't know how I feel about it, but if my children was attacking me or my wife in this way, I mean, it would cause a lot of problems in the relationship. So, but I guess I'm glad that they've made up or something.
Hmm.
Dr. Ziller for $2 says Elon's rightward shift has been years in the making. Remember the Biden electric vehicle summit in 2021, perfectly excluding Tesla despite its standing in the EV market. Yeah, no, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like he's got so unfairly attacked by the left that he's essentially been like, I'm going to become the monster that you think I am. That's what I think is going on there. So, Alex Rye for $2 says disband Twitter. Come on, Adam, you sound crazy. So he doesn't think that's going to happen.
Right. Okay. I mean, I can figure out some angle on it.
Anyways, thank you
All
guys for coming. Thank you for incredibly generous donations today. And thank you for joining us, even though we were late today. And we'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah. What are we talking about tomorrow?
Maybe the terrorist thing. Who knows? We'll see what the day brings.
Tariffs. Later.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I gotta go.
Later.